Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, April 15th, 2022. My name is Emma Vigeland, in for Sam Seder, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, David Griscom of Let Reckoning joins us. Wahoo! And a special guest. A secret special guest will be popping on a little bit later after that.
I wonder who that could be.
Russia's just giving it away. Russian forces appear close to taking Mariupol, the southern port city that's been under fire for weeks now. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh during that. We had an alarm go off. The mayor of the city estimates that at least 20,000 civilians have been killed in the city since the start of the war. Israeli soldiers attacked the Al-Aqsa Mosque yesterday in the middle of Ramadan, which is a yearly tradition for them. Over 100 Palestinian worshippers were injured. Expect tensions to increase once again as this attack follows attacks within Israel over the past few weeks. Ron DeSantis has signed a 15-week abortion ban into law, mirroring the 15-week ban in Mississippi that the Supreme Court signaled it would support. The rollback of women's rights is real, folks, and it's happening right now. As the BA2 subvariant percolates throughout the Northeast, Pfizer will seek authorization for booster shots for 5 to 11-year-olds. Senator Dianne Feinstein has responded to the San Francisco Chronicle piece about her declining mental acuity, denying its claims, and says she does not plan to step down. She wants to fulfill her full term through 2024. Again, Democrats need to go on the record here in talking about her decline. The family of Patrick Loyola is demanding justice after a white officer killed him during a traffic stop. The officer's name has not yet been released, and thus far, no charges have been filed. And lastly, Southern California's unionized grocery workers have achieved big wins in their new contract. Raises of 12% for most workers and more guaranteed hours for part-time workers. All this and more on today's program. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is Casual Friday. Hope everyone has had a good week. Again, we will have a special guest joining us. It's AOC. No, it's not.
Oh, there he is.
Okay. Matt just wants to ruin it. Ruin it for everybody.
That doesn't give it away. It might be Steven Crowder.
It could be. But first, we will have David Griscom on. It's a long time coming. Glad he was able to join us for this Casual Friday. But let's turn first to this much discussed appearance on Tucker Carlson's show. Amazon organizer Christian Smalls went on Tucker Carlson's show last night to discuss the union efforts and the success at the Staten Island warehouse. Tucker Carlson was less interested in the whole union part and more on the how can I use this as an opportunity to criticize Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is broken up into two parts. Here's the first part of this interview.
The worker, she's like a modern wobbly. She's the Walter Reuther of our day. And that's why last year she had to stand alongside striking workers at Amazon's Staten Island warehouse. And we're for that because they need the help. But at the last minute, Cindy Cortez bailed on the whole thing. And that infuriated labor organizers who just won a big vote to unionize at the Staten Island facility. Now, Amazon is stepping up its effort to crush the union. Amazon has just banned words like union on its employee chat app. Christian Smalls is a union leader at Amazon, and we're happy to have him join us now. Christian, thanks so much for coming on. So were you surprised that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who has said repeatedly that she's on the side of the worker against the corporation, wasn't standing with you at the barricades?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just her. It was all of them pretty much. It's not
fair.
I don't want it to make it just between us and AOC because a lot of them didn't show up. And once again, we have no ill will against them. We know that whether they showed up or not, they didn't make or break our election. We just had to continue to organize.
I mean, it's just
pause
it
for a sec. Yeah, I mean, so my favorite part of that there is he had slipped in before Chris Smalls came on into the condescending, high-pitched Sandy Cortez voice, and he sees him. He's like, "Oh wait, they're a little more ideologically aligned, and so I can't really do the mocking Sandy Cortez thing to him."
He seemed a little embarrassed almost. He
was
like, right, Alexandria.
I didn't do the switch seamlessly enough.
Well, it's also funny because it's like he'll throw in those little things like Amazon wants to fight the union effort, and it's like he'll say that with as much gusto as he can, and it sounds convincing because what he really wants to talk about is AOC as like a backstabber. But when Smalls wants to make it about that, he's like, we're not gonna focus in on AOC.
I know. And his great pivot by Chris Smalls there. It was everybody. I mean, let's point out that all the Republican politicians that Tucker Carlson supports are aggressively anti-union as opposed to like not showing up for the Amazon union effort despite being supportive of it. Like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not showing up there physically, supporting it behind the scenes, has been supportive of it. Should she have done more? I think she should have. But that's the degree of the debate that we're having, as opposed to like the only thing that Tucker Carlson wants to focus on is what a hypocrite, what a liar.
Which I mean, the great thing about this is how Smalls is like, this is a learning opportunity, and actually everyone can do better. Because even on our case, like we weren't paying as much attention to this one compared to other union efforts, and I think a lot of that's because of the institutional unions sort of involvement, sort of being used as a shorthand for what's likely to succeed, and Smalls succeeded.
It's a great point because I do think that was an issue. I think we were focused and keeping an eye on fights with more established unions, as you say. I guess I'm kind of just rephrasing what you said, but this was such a historic victory, and the independence of it is another layer of why it's so important to keep focusing on. But let's continue because Tucker's going to keep trying to bring it back to AOC.
And we have no ill will against them. We know that whether they showed up or not, they didn't make or break our election. We just had to continue to organize.
Silence.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird moment because, I mean, I'm on the right. I've never been particularly pro-union, but it does seem like Amazon needs some counterbalance. Like, it's this huge company. The workers have no power, and maybe we could, I don't know, share a little power with people who work there. So that's my view anyway. So tell us where you are in your organizing efforts.
It's not his view.
Well, right now, we're fighting for a contract. Amazon's disputing the election results. So we're in walking and chewing bubble gum at the same time. We're fighting for a contract. We're preparing for another election in 2 weeks on April 25th. We're going to be voting at a second location directly across the building that we just unionized. So we're in the thick of a fight right now, a legal battle. And, we just have to stay grounded and pretty much begin our campaign all over again.
I mean, you'd think that Amazon would be open to a union, wouldn't you?
No, you wouldn't. All right, here's the other part, because he's lost at this point. He tried to make it about AOC right off the bat. He's a little bit, he doesn't have his moorings here. This is the second part of the interview. Let's just play a little bit more of this.
That Amazon would be open to a union, wouldn't you? It's a very progressive company.
No,
why do you think they're trying to thwart you from
smiling.
organizing?
This sort of like some people might like say, and certain things that maybe it is good that Tucker like said them into like just share a little bit of power with the people that work there, right? Like that. Okay, I think that's generally good, but this sort of thing is misleading his audience still,
Yeah.
where you set the like as if it's like, because the underlying narrative Tucker wants to protect is that woke corporations and all the CEOs are like woke folks, Democratic Party supporters.
His conflation of cultural elites that are talking down to you with actual monetary capitalists.
Like, these are capitalists,
and his way, and he that's how he hides the ball and protects capitalist interests. So he's having a bit of a trouble doing that, undergoing that project here with Smalls.
Progressive company. Why do you think they're trying to thwart you from organizing?
Amazon hasn't been unionized in this country since the beginning of its existence, and they're very anti-union. They created a system that hires and fires people. They created a system that they have full control of the working people, and having a union obviously brings representation for the workers that'll benefit the workers at the bottom, like myself, hourly associates, entry-level workers that don't get the right to negotiate. So forming a union gives us the right to collective bargain with the company, form a contract to protect ourselves. So that's exactly what we're trying to do with the Amazon Labor Union. We're hoping that we'll be a catalyst for something that'll take place nationwide.
Well, I certainly am rooting for you. I mean, maybe if they throw some more woke slogans at you, you'll forget you can't feed your family.
Right.
Chris, I appreciate your coming on. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat.
Right.
Right. That laugh.
Maniac. No, I mean, like, but that was expertly done by Chris Smalls there.
He's great.
And he did not take the bait. And I think, there are still going to be people that critique him going on Tucker Carlson. And for the most part, I don't agree with, going on Tucker Carlson to not be combative with him. But Chris Smalls is an organizer. He has a narrower set of goals than like a pundit or a politician
or a media critic.
Right? This is somebody trying to raise awareness and keep up the pressure on Amazon. You've got to do that from multiple sides. What I'm annoyed about is that there was a group of people of our peers that made this about AOC. Someone like in the media, someone like Tucker Carlson said, I'm taking notice to this. This is why I have Jimmy Dore on. It's the same kind of thing. This is the same way I can use it as a wedge issue for the left. And he saw that as a way he thought this was going to be an easy way to divide the left and capitalize on this. And another thing too, is he was hopeful that there's a second, a part B, in addition to like, maybe we can divide the left when it comes to AOC, maybe we can divide the left when it comes to Chris Smalls, because if some sections of the left are just going to focus on the fact that he came on Tucker Carlson to talk about this, then we create infighting, and that,
which is a problem. I'm sorry.
A problem.
Like, I don't begrudge anybody who's like their beat is media criticism if they want to like say like, hey, Tucker's really bad and blah blah blah, right? But as far as like the general left, like the idea that you got to trust like these organizers, and when you get victories like this, you just have to like allow people, especially when it's led by workers themselves, you just have to let them like go and let them do what they think is best. And I think like Chris Smalls would like basically rewarded people if they would have gave him the benefit of the doubt there, because this was a great and we can need a little bit more confident about when the issues are good issues, right? Because Tucker tried to make this about the AOC thing, but fundamentally it's about Amazon trying to coerce and control their workers.
And frankly, Chris Smalls there showed a lot more gumption than a lot of people who go on there who feel peer pressure when you're on a national television stage to cave into that kind of framing because it's easier to get along, and you want to bring your message, you want to get your message out there, and you want to be able to have a back and forth with the host, and he refused to take the bait. And that's a lot more than can be said for a lot of other people who've been pushing this narrative constantly. And Tucker Carlson thought he had an easy layup here as an opportunity to use this to go after AOC, go after the left as well. muddy the waters on who stands with unionizing workers in this country. And Chris Smalls did as best as he possibly could do in those circumstances to make that not happen.
And I'll just say, like, in all this sort of agonizing about this discourse and how, you know, divisive it's been, this is what Chris Smalls has been saying the entire time. That's what he said on MSNBC. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And again, like, everyone can do better. I mean, yeah, I think that people just need to have. This is why, like, I support something like Ben Burgess's thing, even though people get upset with him about, you know, going on Rogan and stuff like that. Is I think you need to actually appear and get out there if you can, and especially if you've done something like Smalls has done, you've earned it like threefold.
Yep. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but first, a word from our sponsor, Sunset Lake Seder. Sunset Lake Seder and Majority Report are teaming up to turn everyone's favorite stoner holiday, 420, into a fundraising opportunity for the Innocence Project, a great organization working to undo the damage of the war on drugs. Here's how it works. Visit sunsetlakesebede.com starting Wednesday. So that's already passed, but it's through next week, through April 24th, up until midnight. You can visit sunsetlakesebede.com, and Sunset Lake will be offering 40% off smokables like hemp flower, pre-rolls, and keef, and every other product will be 30% off. I mentioned this. I'm like, I basically take the tincture every night to help me go to sleep. I like the natural flavor. It's quite helpful. Perhaps I need to start getting some of the keef so I can mix it in with anything else I might be consuming as well. That's my next goal, and maybe I'll be using this excellent opportunity, this 40% off that also goes to a good cause. Sunset Lake Seder will be donating 4.20% of sales to the Innocence Project, a nonprofit organization that works to free the innocent, prevent wrongful convictions, and create fair, compassionate, and equitable systems of justice for everyone. Sunset Lake Seder is a majority employee-owned business that donated more than $26,000 last year to anti-drug war organizations, animal shelters, union strike funds, nature conservation, food shelves, and refugee resettlement organizations. Again, visit sunsetlakesebede.com to take advantage of these discounts and help Majority Report raise money for a great organization. The sale ends April 24th. Check it out. Sunset Lake Seder 420 sale. No promo code is needed. The products are already discounted on the website, but help Majority Report and Sunset Lake not just, sell some great products for 420, but also help out the Innocence Project here, which is an excellent organization in this country. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be joined by David Griscom. We are back, and we are joined now by David Griscom, finally, of Left Reckoning. Good to see you, David.
It's a real pleasure to be here.
Oh, yeah, it's Casual Friday, so we'll get to cover a wide range of topics where we can make fun of right-wingers and Elon Musk, because that's what I want to get to.
Yeah, we corralled Griscom in from the honky-tonk.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, you're no longer in our backyard. I mean, like when did you move to Texas? When was that? Like a few years ago?
I'm from Texas, but yeah, I rolled back here during the pandemic, basically.
Yeah.
I've been with my partner for about 10 years, and pretty much every weekend I've been asking her to move to Texas with me, and she finally said yes, so we did. And
you just jumped on that opportunity.
Oh, of course.
I mean, I get it, right? especially in the pandemic. But since you are in Texas as our Texas correspondent, I'm going to ask you to talk a bit about this Greg Abbott stunt. So, yeah, for people that aren't aware, Greg Abbott has been shipping buses, or sending buses, I should say, of migrants to blue cities, to Washington, D.C., as a way to say, you know, this, you deal with it now, you deal with them now. And now he's been disrupting, I guess, the supply chain along the border by stopping these trucks and vehicles, and even members of his Republican administration are starting to get pissed off. But it's hard for him to walk back from this, because this is a big part of his, you know, tough on immigration stance. What's your sense of how things are going for him on the ground, and what's your response to this stunt?
Well, they're not good. I mean, let's start with the busing. You know, this is one of those things that I think you have to remember, that Abbott uses the position of the governor here as a political theater, and he, you know, he's very willing to do a lot of stuff that's very disruptive, but this is pretty exceptional. And the stunt first of sending people to Washington, D.C., you know, he's copying off the notes of Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz proposed something like this in October in Congress, and it went nowhere. No one was really interested in it. So now a few months later, Greg Abbott tries it. And yeah, I mean, like, I think there are some people who like it as a, you know, maybe symbol or something like that. But the Republican Party here has been really hitting him hard on that. Alan West, who ran against him on the right for governor, called it a stuck on stupid position. And mainly, you know, them all being Republicans, what they're most upset about is the money that's basically going into this busing program. I don't know. I mean, on that, I think it's disgusting to use people as human props. Though we have seen some of the interviews that have come out from people saying, like, well, I had never really intended to, like, stay in the Rio Grande Valley, so this is great. I was trying to get to Miami, and I'm a little bit closer.
Yeah.
So
free ride.
Yeah, basically. You know, so he's basically had to. I mean, not with that, but he's basically been getting a lot of pushback from folks, which I think has really backfired. And I think the most material bit, though, is what he's been doing with the supply chain. If I could break that down, it's because it's actually really crazy. So Abbott has been having state troopers inspect commercial vehicles that are coming over from Mexico. And I'm sure most people are aware, a lot of trade comes over from Mexico on a daily basis. And this has caused huge snags in the supply chain, hours upon hours. I think it's important to remember, too, that while there's the bureaucratic nightmare on the U.S. side of the border, truckers in Mexico have staged protests to basically say, we're going to shut down the border, too. And oftentimes that has been sort of overshadowed. So we want to shout those people out for using their labor power to make a point. But, you know, the Far Reynosa bridge alone, like $70 million a day of goods are coming across that border. Mexican agencies have been saying around $8 million a day has just been lost in all of this kind of madness. And a significant amount of trucks are now just rerouting around Texas. You know, they're going to other ports of entry in Arizona. You know, and it was almost immediately a disaster politically. Sid Miller, who's the agricultural commissioner here, came out, and he was one of the first people to really hit Abbott hard. Sid Miller is a Republican, but has a very weird relationship with Abbott. Apparently, Greg Abbott hasn't returned one of his emails or phone calls, or even had a meeting with the agricultural commissioner of Texas in 70 years. And of course, when Abbott's response to Sid Miller's basically criticizing his policies, that Sid Miller doesn't know what's going on. Well, it makes a lot of sense if you're not responding to emails from one of your important Republican, members of government. So, I mean, just to fast forward a little bit. So this has been going on. Like Beto, of course, has been showing up at the border and has been making, rightfully, trying to draw awareness to this. But what Abbott's now doing is he's trying to save face. So because this has been so unpopular, and the thing about this too is, like, if you're in Texas and you might have not experienced this at like the grocery store yet, but it's coming, and they're saying basically this weekend is when you're going to start seeing empty shelves. You're not going to be able to get fruits and vegetables, or at least
communism.
They'll be.
It's communism.
Well, it's big government getting in the way of free enterprise, right?
Obviously, yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of pushback against it already, and I think it's only going to get worse. Greg has tried to save face. He went down and he negotiated with the governor of Nuevo Leon, and got very, very vague promises from the governor that there'll be some more border security initiatives in Nuevo Leon. For people who aren't familiar with the kind of geography of, the Mexican side of the border there, Nuevo Leon has a very important port of entry with Texas, but it's actually very, very small. It's a tiny little sliver. So we're still waiting to see if other states are going to show up. So Chihuahua, yesterday afternoon, they also negotiated a deal, but Coahuila, as far as I know, there's been no deal. And the most important one, at least when it comes to, fruits and vegetables and things like that, is Jesus Christ, is a Tamaulipas.
Way better than when I attempt to read an IM in Spanish here on the show. So don't even worry.
They still have not, as far as I know, negotiated, and that's going to really hit a lot of the agriculture here. And I don't know, it's been a really interesting week, frankly, to see the kind of pushback from even within the Republican Party to these kind of stunts, to see how willing Abbott is to sort of do stupid shit like this, so that he can try to bolster his national image. And that's the thing you have to remember too, is he's doing this, I think, with presidential ambitions, and he wants to go his goal right now is to be, sitting with Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity and being able to say that I'm the real, tough on the border guy. There was a segment on Fox News where they called him the Ron DeSantis of Texas, which I don't think his team very much is going to appreciate. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how much, benefit he gets out of this, but it's really been an absolute disaster.
Yeah, I mean, bringing up Ron DeSantis there, it's interesting. There's no way he can catch up to the media darling treatment that Ron DeSantis has gotten, especially because DeSantis is, way more ahead of the curve on some of these cultural performative stunts that Abbott has not ever seemingly been able to capture, and he's been in office for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what are we thinking if he does run for president? Tops 3% in the polling?
Yeah, I would be surprised. I mean, and him as a national political figure is interesting because, I don't know how. I mean, liberals probably get worked up about him as a kind of villain, but even the way that he runs the state here, there's a lot of stuff that really should Abbott really wants to be a kind of big media figure. And he tries to play this kind of hardball stuff, but internally in Texas, he's been quite effective at promoting an extreme conservative, far right form of government. Not only that, and this is something, if I can make a quick plug, I'm writing a piece for Sublation Media coming up in a few weeks on what Greg Abbott's done to the office of governor here. Because people might not be familiar with the way the system works in Texas, but Texas has historically been a weak governor state. For a long time, governors were only elected to office for 2 years, and the executive power of that office is historically extremely weak. It's sort of fragmented into different elected boards or appointed boards, and things are staggered, so you only get a few appointments. So typically that's been quite a weak office, and not really something that people aspire to who had grand designs of power. But following in the footsteps of Rick Perry really started to reformulate the government and create a kind of clientelist system because he was in power for so long and he inherited a lot from Bush. But Greg Abbott has used the COVID pandemic in a really fascinating way, because a lot of people who get worked up about vaccine mandates and all this stuff, they're saying it's the government's coming for my freedoms, the government's trying to extend its power. But what Abbott has done is he has declared a state of emergency since the beginning of the pandemic, ongoing to today, right? Which might sound surprising to people who are living here, where you very rarely see a mask or anything like that. The government very much acts here like COVID-19 is not, still here. And Abbott has used the, emergency powers that he asserted at the beginning of the pandemic to basically wage war on all other sources of authority in the state. So while I don't know about his presidential ambitions, he has fundamentally reshaped, the way the system of government in Texas works. And, it's not really one of those things that comes up at the top of the headlines because it's very slow and methodical. But it's going to have very long-term consequences, especially if the Republicans are able to maintain power here.
Yeah, I mean that I was unaware of that, although based on his political career prior to becoming governor, like
Hmm.
he's always been an ambitious and aggressive politician, so that does make sense. If we could just go back a little bit to the border thing, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask more about these deals that he's trying to broker with these governors in Mexico, because it's so performative to me. I mean, is there any teeth to this as opposed to him just saving face? Like, it's more like, I won't disrupt the supply chain coming out of these areas in Mexico, but you have to really promise me you're going to get tough on this illegal immigration stuff. Is there anything more to it than what I described?
That's been pretty much it. I mean, firm details have been pretty slim so far. So it is these kind of vague promises of, ramping up border security on the southern side. And look, for him, he just wants to have the photo op where he's like, look, I negotiated hard. They had to come to Texas to negotiate with me because we're powerful. They're not, right? He wants to flex his muscle on the international scale so that he can really work up his base. And like, people also need to remember that, like, in the complete absence and dysfunction of the Democratic Party here, that all that's going on politically is a contest between, like, you think Abbott's right? See the guys who he ran against, in this most recent, Republican primary. Don Huffines, who y'all probably even maybe played him on the show because he's a very ridiculous kind of super far right character. He said during the campaign that he would shut down all trade with Mexico, right? Which everybody absolutely ridiculed as a disastrous kind of policy. And here we are, Abbott, after sort of smoking everybody out in that GOP primary, now we're having these kind of policies come into play, right? So, like, there is the people who are being listened to in Texas is the more right-wing members of the Republican Party. So that's who he's trying to placate. And, I don't want to be too geographical about this, but, it's East Texas a lot where Abbott is really trying to shore up more support, because that's where you started to see some more of those push for these other kind of candidates who are running against them. So, like, he's trying to play a game for those folks too, and like it's putting us all at risk.
Yeah, and you mentioned the democratic dysfunction there, or like the
Mhm.
inability for them to gain a foothold. Um, this Beto O'Rourke campaign is so depressing. I saw a few days ago, he was criticizing Biden for ending Title 42. Not even immediately. It's going to end in
Mhm.
a few weeks. The pandemic era basically blanket policy that turns away almost all migrants who are seeking asylum at the border. It was a Trump era policy implemented on shaky legal ground, and the Biden administration kept it in place for quite a while. And anybody on the left, anybody center left,
Mhm.
is critical of this. Was critical, I should say, of Biden continuing to violate people's right to seek asylum and keeping Title 42 in place. And then you have Beto O'Rourke saying, it was kind of hasty to get rid of this Trump era anti-immigrant racist policy. Like, what kind of freaking campaign is he running as he talks about, I'm going to take your guns away, and also I'm going to go to the right of Biden on immigration?
Yeah. Well, I also just wanted to note there too, just on Abbott and like how he's using his powers regarding COVID. I mean, Title 42 is a great example of this, right? They're not worried about COVID for us, but they want to maintain that kind of policy on the border, right? It's just like, it's very clever how they're trying to secure power. But I mean, the Robert O'Rourke campaign has been very funny. Um, he's been, I mean, in fairness, his Title 42 statement was something along the lines of, I think Title 42 should be gotten rid of, but they need to be coming here and supporting us, which is not a defense of of Beto's, position. Because it shows this kind of like mealy mouth, both sidesism that he's
Yes.
been doing. And, on guns, I don't know too much about the concrete details, but now he said, well, I'm not I don't want to come for anybody's guns now, right? And he's even played up that he's like, I like to shoot sometimes, right? So you're seeing this like two sides to him that is very different than, for example, his Senate run, which really shook up, politics. I mean, people thought that he was the rising star here, and then he went on his insane campaign to be president of the United States, which nobody was particularly interested in. He's a small business guy now. He keeps on talking about, I think he owned a graphic design firm for 10 years or something like that. So he's been talking about how he knows how to run a small business, which, it is what it is. A lot of kind of selfie line stuff, taken from the Warren playbook. The one thing that he's done that I said from the beginning that he needs to focus on is to come at the grid, because that was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot more play to be done there. So I hope that that's the direction that it goes. But it was a really cynical thing that you were hearing people here say that, Abbott is basically banking on this, the winter storm that came here this year not being as bad as last year's, which shows how bad the state of affairs are in Texas politics, where we're some kind of like, we're like looking to the stars to select our next governor. If we have a bad storm, then we get rid of them. If it's mild, we don't. But there's a lot of stuff, I think, on the campaign regarding like the environment and the grid that Beto could be hitting at a lot harder. Obviously, he's been saying that we need to come at the people who made billions of dollars, which I think is good. We need to be connecting to the national grid, but also we need to get rid of this for-profit system, which just creates an absolutely ridiculous incentive to jack up the price of electricity. We need public power in the state. We need a Green New Deal. We need a just transition and like a real buy-in from labor, oil, and gas workers here, which I haven't seen as much from Beto. He's taken some things from the AFL-CIO here, but I think that he could be doing a lot more. But yeah, I mean, like he's wanting to do two things. He wants to do culture war politics, basically, and then these kind of both sidism things on things like Title 42, on guns. I don't know. I haven't seen too much to be particularly inspired.
Well, the gun
him.
thing is what bothers me more about that is like, okay, that's not a serious campaign trying to win in the state, and you can have your own personal opinions about that. But that is what that's designed to do, is to be a Jamie Harrison type campaign where you get a ton of outside money. When he was trying to unseat Lindsey Graham, you get a ton of money from outside the state. Suburban coastal donors are going to love the, we're going to seize your guns rhetoric or the swearing on cable news, and they'll send you money, but there's no seemingly targeted focus on actually winning. And that's what bothers me about this from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, he supports a $15 minimum wage, which is good, right? But honestly, that's becoming a position that's becoming more and more mainstream in the Democratic Party, and I think a $15 minimum wage floor is not even enough, right? I mean, people also need to understand, like, the Biden playbook is being used here. Like, his first campaign was interesting because when he ran for Senate, was interesting because he tried to throw away the Democratic Party playbook where they're just going to go in their kind of safe areas. And he went everywhere. And, he's continuing that kind of track record, but you can see in the sense of like where he's going around the state, but you can see that the focus is suburbs of Austin, suburbs of Dallas, suburbs of Houston. And I'll tell you this, it is a foolish strategy from the Democratic Party because they saw some success in those areas, that they think that those voters are going to be loyal to you in the long run. People in that class were upset with Trump's, antics primarily, and then they voted Republican down ticket. So thinking that is where you should be focused, I don't. I think that's a kind of a foolish strategy. I don't know, and also like the campaign itself, it already feels retro. Like people are putting up their Beto for Senate, things on their front lawn again, and it's just like, it's been 4 years since then. He burned so much goodwill in the state, Emma. I can't tell you, by running for president. People were pissed.
I get
when
it.
he did that.
I mean, he could have parlayed that into what just laid low, ran for governor, or ran against Cornyn. I mean, that could have
Mhm.
been a real opportunity for him. Instead, his ego got massive.
Born for this.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, there's so much that really, needs to be done. I mean, I guess some things, just so it doesn't seem like I'm ragging on him too much. He has come out for Medicaid expansion. I think that should be a more focal point of the campaign. Texas led the country in rural hospital closings before, from 2010 2020. But because of extra federal money, because of COVID that was going to these rural hospitals, a lot of those were able to stay afloat, right? And you remember, when you have a Medicaid gap like you do in Texas, that means a lot of people, they go and they get help, and then they're unable to pay. So those hospitals don't have any kind of income, right? There's a lot that can be done, I think, really on the rural healthcare arena, because these boys don't care. The Republicans do not care about the health and safety of rural Texans. And that's a huge opportunity. I think that it's not being taken advantage of right now.
Absolutely. I don't want to, even though that was excellent, stay on Texas the whole time that I have you, because I just looked at the time. I spent more on that than I thought, but it was really interesting. Good stuff. Thank you, David. Let's turn to the events in your former city here in Brooklyn. Obviously, you watch from afar as there was that terrifying subway shooting. And the response from Eric Adams and the NYPD in particular has been, we talk about Beto O'Rourke's campaign being retro. This is like retro tough on crime, Giuliani era politics. And they're boasting, the NYPD, about having apprehended the suspect, who clearly had some severe mental health issues. And the reality of the situation, and then Eric Adams is trying to parlay that into some anti homeless person stuff, even though the suspect was maybe potentially targeting homeless people. We don't know that for a fact, but he's had some anti-homeless rhetoric as opposed to rhetoric against other ethnic groups. But this resurgence of the tough on crime rhetoric, as well as the NYPD trying to take credit for when the guy left his credit card on the scene. He called the cops on himself and they showed up too late, and then he was finally actually apprehended by a Good Samaritan. Like, there is this narrative they're really trying to break through, that this is why we need more police funding. This is why there need to be more cops everywhere. What's your take on what you've seen out of New York this week?
I mean, it's, first of all, we need to be getting money to our boy Zach, the guy who actually apprehended him.
I just, so people know, I tweeted out a link. He posted some donation thing, buy him a cup of coffee. Go to my Twitter feed and you'll find that link. Nice. I'd encourage people to give him some cash.
I mean, I mean, the shootings themselves were horrible. And of course, Adam, this was inevitable in the sense of, like, it didn't matter what event was going to trigger this. They were waiting for something like this to say, we need to bolster, the police department funding in New York. I mean, the police department in New York is an army. Frankly, it has more than enough funding. And this is something that I don't think, is going to be isolated in New York, that, we're going to start seeing more tough on crime Democrats, because, over policing communities is one of, if you're a neoliberal, mayor of a city, it is probably the easiest and cheapest weapon to use to sort of, stomp down on social problems and discord that comes when you have an extremely unequal society like you do in New York. So it's like, I can't imagine that this will be isolated, in the sense that, like, I think that there's going to be mirrors of this in, cities across the country that are run by Democrats over the next few months and years.
Can you talk a little bit about the Austin experience on these issues, David?
Yeah. I mean, so Austin, early on, they cut the police budget. It was on a referendum, and a group called Save Austin Now, which pretended to basically be a nonpartisan group, but just happened to have their offices located in the Travis County GOP's office, really mobilized suburban and wealthier voters to start showing up to, kind of off schedule elections where there's typically lower turnout to do things like, so Austin had implemented, they weren't arresting people for camping in public, and Save Austin now put forward this really ludicrous camping ban that was even worse than what happened before. And Save Austin now was basically able to like garner all this kind of suburban and wealthier support to come in and implement one of the most harsh and cruel and barbaric anti-homeless laws in the country. What was interesting about that is that almost immediately after, they came out with another bill that was overwhelmingly shot down because they were basically trying to tell the city how to allocate funding in the city of Austin, and people reacted really negatively against it. So I don't know, what lessons other people can draw from this, other than like, there's a lot of opportunity for the right to have backlash, but staying organized and staying mobilized can also, push back against a lot of these groups that are really trying to use any kind of social crisis, to bolster police funding and strengthen the carceral state.
Well, it's like it's the shock doctrine. It's that kind of any opening that these tough on crime folks are going to see, they're going to take, even if like the actual details of the story, like we're seeing here in New York, don't justify such a response. They bank on the emotional reactions of people in order to push through whatever they want to do. And saying we'll make you safer through this funding of police or through more cops. It doesn't matter if the evidence doesn't support it. There's a segment of the population that, without organized pushback, as you say, will buy into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like it relies on a kind of common sense. It's wrong, but like a common sense understanding that if the budget goes up, that crime goes down, but it doesn't. I think this is one of those things where people who consider themselves to be progressives or on the left, really need to, be pushing back, because the moment that, like, for example, like defund the police started becoming mainstream in the Democratic Party, you knew that kind of movement was on its, last breath, because they were going to take that and, implement it or not implement it, but sort of be associated with it in a way that they were then later going to have to say, well, we tried it, it didn't work. What we have to do is increase police funding. I mean, Adams is the poster child of that kind of backlash, right?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody who has deep ties with the police department. I can't tell y'all, what's going on there, but I'd be curious to see, what the next couple of weeks are going to look like in New York as he's starting to, take advantage of this moment to bolster his police support.
Right. Absolutely. With that said, can't let you go without ripping into Elon Musk.
Our boy.
Yeah. So
our cyber cowboy.
Jesus. I mean, I don't even that's like too cool of a name. You're pulling it. We have a clip for this, right? I think we do. Okay. Yeah, let's just play this clip.
From Elon's TED Talk yesterday.
Yeah. Elon, for people that don't know, Elon Musk has publicly announced that he wants to buy Twitter for over $40 billion and take it private. And independent analyses of the cash that he has on hand have shown that he does not have nearly enough money to do that right now. It is a transparent way for him to pump and dump the shares that he has purchased in Twitter. But it also gives him some sort of PR cachet with right-wingers who are mad at Twitter for banning Donald Trump for violating their terms of service. But here he is talking about how lies, they really get his goat. He's in favor of the truth.
So that was a really strong statement. I mean, obviously, a lot of people who support you, I would have thought, would say, you have so much to offer the world on the upside, on the vision side. Don't waste your time getting distracted by these battles that bring out negativity and make people feel that you're being defensive. Or people don't like fights, especially with powerful government authorities. They'd rather buy into your dream. Do you like? aren't you encouraged by people just to edit that temptation out and go with the bigger story?
Well, I mean, I would say, like, I'm somewhat of a mixed bag. I mean.
Well, you're a fighter, and you don't like to lose, and you are determined that you don't. Basically, I mean, you are.
Sure, I don't like to lose. I'm not sure many people do. But the truth matters to me a lot. Really, like, sort of pathologically, it matters to me.
I'm very different. I'm unique and different from other people, and the truth matters to me. So, like, Elon, tell the truth. Do you have the liquidity to buy Twitter and take it private right now, or are you just trying to artificially bump up your share price before you sell, and you don't have any real intention of purchasing this major company in and of itself?
I mean, the truth's really important to this guy, unless, you're somebody out here talking about the workers' rights violations that he's been, accused of in California. The truth really matters to him. He's somebody who loves to make big statements. I mean, did you see the Starlink thing in Ukraine? He says, "Oh, I'm bringing internet to Ukraine," and everyone's like, "Oh, thank you, Elon. Elon's saving the day again." And turns out it's a completely unfeasible solution because you have to have these like $700 modules, and it's hard to implement something like that in normal conditions, right? If you're to bring a bunch of modules so that people can, have access to internet, let alone in wartime, right? And it's just like he's an amazing character because he really does rely on like the kind of Twitter brain, frankly, where it's like everything's happening in an instant and there's no follow-up. So, maybe it would be, it'd be fitting for him to get in on Twitter, but I don't think he's going to be able to buy it. I mean, he's been basically throwing a tantrum since the board, denied his first offer.
Yeah, and he says he loves the truth so much, and yet he bristles and gets really pissy when people bring up the fact that Tesla in particular has benefited greatly from government subsidies, but he doesn't like that to be a part of the narrative. He wants to be, perceived as this upstart electric vehicle company. No, I didn't get any government help. I'm a principled libertarian and free thinker.
No, this guy has been cradled by the government from the get-go. One, from early help with Tesla, but two, I mean, even look at what he's doing right now. By moving the headquarters of Tesla over to Texas and building this new gigafactory. Why did he do that? Well, I know Greg Abbott would like to say it's because he's here because he loves Texas, Texas values, and that Texas moves. What was the phrase I used? Texas moves at the speed of business, right? Yeah. It's like, no. Elon Musk came here because his facilities in California are facing lawsuits for like the most extreme racism I think I've seen from a major company in my lifetime, right? Where they were having black employees cordoned off into certain sections of the factory that they were calling the plantation, and a few other words that I just don't have the heart to say right now. On top of all of that, which is bad enough, extreme, worker rights violations, and for the green future poster boy, extreme environmental damage that has been done around those California factories. So he realized that he was going to get in trouble from the government of California. So he found a new benefactor to come here, to protect him. And that's Greg Abbott and the Republicans who are allowing him to, run over this state, damaging communities from right here in Austin to South Texas, where he is basically, has one of his goons, mayors down there, in Brownsville, who has been harassing a young activist and threatening her with jail time over allegedly some graffiti. And the mayor says, you've also posted a lot of anti-Elon social media posts, right? I mean, like, it's really frightening. But the point is that, like, this guy who says like he's not involved with the government sure loves being able to use our system when it's giving him money. Sure loves being able to use, in that case in South Texas, the strong arm of the state. I mean, he's full of it, and I wish I didn't have to see his face very often, frankly.
No, I know, but he's insistent on being front facing, and I just want to point out that I like the speculation about the pump and dump stuff with Twitter. He's done this before with crypto and NFTs, so this would be very much within his playbook, and using like the publicity that he creates for himself and that outlets breathlessly report to his advantage monetarily.
The question is probably confusing to Elon though, because it's like this getting into these high profile fights is exactly what that's sort of his main job.
Yeah.
That's what he does. Like, and remember his sort of he's pathologically, he seeks truth when he accuses a guy of being a pedophile on Twitter. Because this guy that was trying to save some kids underwater, I forget where this was, but he declined Elon's offer of a submarine, saying it was a publicity stunt. Then Elon went in and called him a pedo guy on Twitter, and then subsequently like created a new type of free speech, which is called the J Dart, which is you can joke about something even if it's like slanderous like that, and if you delete it right away, it's just a J Dart. So thanks Elon for that pioneer in free speech.
Yeah, it was that Thai cave rescue in Thailand.
Yeah, I mean, and like this is somebody who, I mean, I think it's worth noting again, like, he derives a lot of personal value from the share price of Tesla, not just to his personal fortune, but like, Tesla is a company that does not really produce very many vehicles. So why is it valued so highly? It's all speculation. And when you're operating in that kind of world and speculation, like being able to control the media narrative is very, very important. And like, I hate to give him any praise, but like, he at least is very good at giving people of overpromising constantly and seemingly never getting in trouble or having it catch up with him.
Right. It's very much a symptom of like the idolatry of the tech genius as being vision first. We'll figure out the logistics later.
Yeah.
But the vision, it's so amazing, and you can fix all these social problems through capitalism with just this one different kind of looking billionaire.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, look at the self-driving cars, which have been killing people across the country.
Yes.
Right. The thing is, like, people are like, well, Elon Musk is an innovator. And, sometimes you have to, break a couple eggs to make an omelet. But literally, it's not that he invented this kind of technology. He was plenty of other tech companies have been trying to work on self-driving cars. But almost all of them said, we're not going to take the risk to our brand and to human life to put these out on the road until we are certain that they function properly. Elon Musk is the kind of guy who says, you know what, we'll just take the risk. And
right.
I've learned my whole life that I'm not going to get punished for any of this kind of activity. Like that's the innovation that you get from Musk, right? Taking advantage of government spending and then trying to, don't ask, what is it? It's better to ask, forgiveness than permission kind of mentality to his business, which is super dangerous when we're talking about people's damn lives here.
Yep. Well said. David Griscom of Left Reckoning. Check out Left Reckoning. Of course, we always plug it with Matt, but this is the other excellent voice that you'll get on that program if you tune in there. So thanks so much for your time, David. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Emma.
See you, David.
See ya.
See ya.
All right. With that, we have our special guest with us. Do we? Fresh-faced. Yeah, we're ready. Here we go. Oh, look who it is.
Hi, guys. I'm alive.
You're alive. Yay.
I'm alive. Yeah. Here I am.
Are you going insane?
I'm going a little bit insane.
Have you been recording podcasts just to like keep in the habit?
I've launched an entirely another show. It lasts only 3 minutes and then it just breaks down into a coughing fit. And that's basically it. It's my hook now.
Is that how this is going to go, this appearance? We'll see.
I say that up front because although today I seem to have like a little bit more stamina with this type of thing. So I've been able to talk to people on the phone and it's been great, but it's been a rough week. Really just want to I want to thank all the kind words that I got on Twitter. And Emma, you've done an amazing job. I wish I had my soundboard.
Thank you.
Holding down for it. And Matt and Bradley.
It makes me uncomfortable to know that you've been watching.
Well, I didn't say that. I've heard really good reports.
There hasn't been any urgent problems there to deal with.
I've dipped in. But the first couple of days were really super rough. And it was weird. I said this on Twitter. I Friday night, I guess a week ago, I started feeling like nothing that I would have considered any type of like symptom except for in retrospect, because I always feel like I have a symptom of something.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like I'm about on the verge of getting some type of cold. But Saturday morning at about 5 a.m., I woke up, and because I felt like I had like the beginnings of bronchitis, which I hadn't felt in years since I smoked, really, because it used to be every time I would get a cold, it would just be a chest cold. And I took a I took a test, rapid test at like 5 a.m., negative. I took one at noon that day, negative, and I was around Saul. Mila, of course, was out of the house immediately as soon as she woke up. So I never saw her practically. And Mila had a big show at Carnegie Hall Saturday night. And I was starting to feel progressively worse. And they say, if you're not feeling well, don't come. But I'm like, I keep testing negative. I went and I got a PCR test, which at the same place that she had gotten, like a rapid one. And you got to pay out of pocket for that now. And it's expensive.
How much was it?
It was like $140 or something like that. And that was for like a much longer turnaround time. But I found this place that if you go, I guess it's just so slow now that I got it literally within like an hour and 15 minutes. So by 5 p.m., I had a PCR on Saturday that also said negative, but I felt really crappy and had baseball the next morning and with Saul. And so we decided we would go because it was going to be a late night, which was a drag. I woke up the next morning, tested again, negative, went to coach some baseball. And afterwards I basically just was like, I can't do anything else the rest of the day. And so I was in bed for all of Sunday, which ended up being good because it meant like I wasn't in direct contact with the kids. Saul went and, had 2 other things that day and had people, pick up the slack for me. And I don't think I tested again that day, but Monday morning I tested and I think it was Sunday. I wrote you guys, I was like, I got this bad cold. I had, and I don't like to miss work, but Sunday night and Monday night overnights were horrible. My throat, I've never had a worse sore throat. Woke me up every like hour and a half. And now I basically am just tired. My throat is more or less fixed. My voice is still a little strained. I think you can hear that. And I got a tiny bit of a cough, but it was no joke. It was rough.
Do you think that like you started feeling sick earlier on because you had your 4th shot?
I do. And I think that's very speculative, but I think so. I certainly think the onset of symptoms came quicker because I was like double boosted. And that's why I was testing negative. There was some study out of Chicago. It's not been peer reviewed, but they found with healthcare workers that being boosted actually separated, you got your symptoms earlier because your body is reacting as soon as it senses that COVID is around, even before you have a viral load that can transmit. And so I think that's why it's unclear to me whether I got it from Saul because he's been sick or whether I got it at a restaurant, but nobody I was with at the restaurant got it. And it wasn't a very terribly crowded restaurant. So it's almost not clear where it came from.
That's weird. And you tested positive on Monday.
I tested positive 7 a.m. Monday.
Yeah.
I could have tested positive later in the day Sunday. I didn't test because at that point, 3 or 4 rapid tests and 1 PCR test into it, I was like, I don't have it. But then Monday morning, I was like, I better try this one more time. And I think, in that sense, the vaccine probably inhibited me transmitting it asymptomatically because my symptoms came so quick.
Right.
My body was so ready to recognize that there was a virus there. And this is all, this is speculation, but I've spoken to, I've traded some emails with Mark Elaine Derry, the epidemiologist we have on, occasionally, and been doing a lot of reading on this. So, but it was no joke. It's amazing. Some people get nothing. Larry Murphy, who I think people know, we've had on the show a couple of times, he had a very similar experience to mine in terms of like the throat thing. So
the night onset thing sounds very familiar to my experience too. Like I would be not fine during the day, but just a little bit lethargic, and then at night it'd be like my throat would
much
tighten up.
worse.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah, much worse. Like I could feel it starting to come on at like 7:30. I went to bed one night at 9.
Wow.
I haven't done that. I don't think I've done that since I was like
childhood.
7.
Yeah, you have sleeping issues. Something I can relate to. That almost sounds like getting COVID. That would be the one silver lining of it. Is you go to bed early for me.
Been doing a lot of sleeping.
That's nice.
Oh, the other thing too that we should tell people is that next week is my planned vacation.
I know.
Which is not going to be necessarily as interesting as we had originally hoped. It was never going to be terribly interesting, but so I will also be out next week. But by the time I come back, I'm going to be like so fit and healthy, and
oh yeah,
5-hour shows.
It's going to we're going to have.
That first show back is gonna be.
We're gonna go till 5.
Yeah, it's just like I better stock up on some food. Lots of cashews here for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I doubt I'll be doing a ton of talking because you'll just be ready to go.
I'll be raring to go. So Elon Musk, huh?
Yeah. We didn't. That was really more just like the dessert at the end of our chat with Griscom, because he was keeping us updated on this Greg Abbott performative border nonsense.
Did you guys talk about the fact that who is his number 2?
Ken Paxton.
Yeah, Paxton was basically saying, we successfully interfered with trade. Like, that's not.
Do you want to do a clip, Sam?
Sam, do you want to do a clip?
We have it.
Oh, you have it?
Are you up for it?
Yeah, let's do this clip. I mean, my understanding is that there's a federal government and state governments in this country, and that the federal government, even all of those libertarians who think that income taxes are illegal because Kansas didn't have an actual quorum for its state legislature in 1916 when they voted on it or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They all seem to agree that the Constitution says the federal government should be dealing with international trade. Let's play this clip.
Joining me right now is the Attorney General of Texas. That is AG Ken Paxton. AG Paxton, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. The governor was explaining last night on Tucker why he is inspecting commercial trucks. I guess in response to questions that the White House was saying that his moves to send migrants to Washington is affecting trade. Can you explain to us what's going on at the border?
Well, good morning. Yes, this is genius by the governor. We basically have a tacit agreement between the Biden administration and the cartels. And the way it works is the cartels know they can transport humans and drugs across our border. And the Biden administration will pick up those people and move them around the country. It's a tacit agreement. The cartels know the deal, and they're profiting greatly. The governor has figured out we can stop trade along the border, slow it down, and it will create pressure on Mexico and some of their governors to work out a deal to help us with border security. So he is doing what the administration won't do, which is protecting the citizens of Texas, protecting the citizens of this country from drugs and from human trafficking.
So in other words, look, he's saying to Mexico, if this doesn't stop, we're going to slow down the trade because we're going to be inspecting all of these commercial trucks. Has it worked?
Yeah, I think he's already got, as a result, I think he's already got agreements with at least one or two of the governors. And I think that you might see more of that as we go along. It's effective because you hit the Mexican government in their pocketbook and everybody.
He has agreements with one, and like Griscom said earlier, that that border crossing is like one city wide, and then that's like, as we know, Texas has a much larger border than that.
Right. And then there's also the issue of it's illegal for
the
you
Constitution
to be inhibiting international trade into this country. You're not allowed to do that. Like if I wanted to, I would imagine, I'm not sure who has standing in this instance. If it's like the Attorney General representing the federal government, but it seems to me like that interview right there is going to provide, two big pieces of testimony as to what the intentions and what the impact of this this move by the Texas government is doing.
Yeah, Merrick Garland seems to be like purely ceremonial in that role, though. I don't know if he's actually going to go after anybody.
Does he actually go out and do any ceremonial things, though, either? I mean, is he even there? Do we know that he even exists? He's
a figment of our imagination, yeah.
I'm starting to suspect the reason why they don't hold hearings for his Supreme Court seat is because he only exists in our minds.
Yeah. We're all Merrick Garland.
This also bolsters that idea that was floating around for the Canadian trucker thing, that the right's interest in that was to F up the economy. Right? Like it's a very similar sort of pattern emerging from this.
Well, David was saying they're anticipating that there's going to be like empty shelves and food shortages just starting over the weekend because of this like, ridiculous stunt. And now Abbott has to backtrack and go and make it seem like he's still the kingmaker, that he's like working with these governors in Mexico. We'll allow trade now, but you have to agree you're going to be tough on immigration, right? It's just an effort for him to save face because he's violating, it's like Article 1, but Section 10. That's what I read today, that no state can make a deal with a foreign power on trade. It's pretty clear.
Has the Supreme Court overturned Obergefell yet? Or is that we waiting another week or two before that happens?
I think it's still pending.
Well, the only other thing I want to say was I wanted to make a point of saying I meant to say this up front, that this is the most analog illness I have ever experienced.
Yeah. What does it feel like?
It feels analog, totally analog. Does no one get that joke?
Like vinyl?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like vinyl. It's not a great joke. People already
played the clip.
I don't know if the audience is going to be familiar with like that very niche comment by Max Blumenthal on the Jimmy Dore show.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah. But should we play this clip? I like Max as a person. I haven't really followed his work in the way that I used to years ago. I mean, I thought the work that he did in covering, the way that Israeli society was treating Palestinians was very strong. And over the years, I have interviewed Max, and even as late, I can't remember the last time it was, but I know like when we were in Vegas at one time. But so I haven't really followed a lot of what's going on. But this is really was
sad, almost.
Both very funny and then sad and
it
distressing.
Seems like he'd been working on this concept for a little while, and then Jimmy just shoots him down.
When you got COVID, didn't it feel digital?
I don't know what you mean by that.
It feels digital. It just doesn't feel like anything else when you have COVID.
To me, it felt like when I got Omicron, and it felt like I didn't get Delta or the first one, so I got the most mild version so far. I think I even have the last version of Omicron, and it was like I had the sniffles. It was like nothing. I wouldn't even mention it to people if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, and I know I had COVID because I got tested. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I wouldn't even have mentioned it. So to me, it didn't feel anything except like the mildest flu I ever had.
I mean, when I had it, it wasn't bad or threatening in any way, but
See, pause it, right?
on-
Right, so that's what it is. He
So you got to do a
he
little
has to
fidelity
walk
to the
it back,
narrative.
yeah,
'cause-
because Jimmy's whole thing is it's just a mild cold. It's not a really big deal. And when you start getting into the
But
COVID's
what is
actually
Max's, what is
5G.
Max's thing? Is he
That's
is
the-
he
that's what's confusing because Max really, in my opinion, lost it when he had those guys were saying like who are now saying like we need to give businesses reparations because of the lockdowns, and the lockdowns were actually more harmful than COVID. But like now I don't know what he's saying, because the thing that gels with what Jimmy's saying, which is that this is just a cold and it doesn't matter. Get back out there, teachers. And this is like, oh yeah, I'm not saying it's threatening, it's just digital. Like it's just entirely foreign and new, but it's not threatening, Jimmy.
Let me just say this too, that like people should understand the concept of two people can get the flu and it can really impact one person more than another. I mean, we have people who die during flu, and I'm only using flu because flu is not as loaded as a virus at this point in our country, politically loaded. But 2 people, 3 people, 5 people can get the flu, and it can hit them all in different ways with different severity. Like I say, when I go on Twitter and say that, I had the worst sore throat of my entire life, I heard a lot of people come back with the same thing. Larry Murphy and I had a very similar impact. I know there are people who have had COVID, and I don't know which strain I got, but we know that the latest variant seems to be that it's sort of like has taken over in New York State, anyways. But I am aware that there are people who get it who are in worse shape than me after.
Some people experience like a Tron-like universe when they get it, apparently.
Right.
I mean, I had one day where I was a little bit like dizzy and this and that, but for the life of me, I've never heard anybody ever refer to any physical malady as being digital. Like digital to me in this context, and let me just be generous for a minute, okay? And and think that he actually means this. That means binary, right? Digital is you're either getting the signal or you're not getting the signal.
A series of ones and zeros.
Right. And analog is there can be intermittent stages. And sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better, and and like that. I don't even understand, based upon him saying it was completely mild, that what it means to be digital.
Maybe he just got Havana syndrome and didn't get tested and was confused.
I mean, the only other answer is that he is knowingly trying to do a hoax and goes on and realizes like, oh, Jimmy's not going to play along on this. It would be the most, I guess, heartening thing to hear that really what they've been doing is their version of birds aren't real. Like that would be honestly like that, at least I would be like, okay, they didn't quite pull it off in the same way. And it's not sending the same, sort of like satirical message, but at least it would be, I mean, if they're just going for the straight grift on this, it's just super, I don't know.
He's signaling to the 5G conspiracy theorists, right?
Of course.
But I mean, it's also just not coherent though, because that's supposed to be the vaccine that's giving you the digital reaction and making you a cell phone tower.
But they also have been pushing, the idea that COVID itself is fake or has been created, or that maybe it's transmitted by the vaccine itself.
Right. We've heard about lab leak, but we didn't hear about like hard drive leak theory, that maybe this was made on the hard drive somewhere and just escaped into the bloodstream.
She bleached it. She bleached it all but the COVID.
I told you need bleach bit because
I also
I
like
it's
how
so
Jimmy
depressing. It's really
Yeah.
I find it really depressing and sad. I really do.
Jimmy tries to get off of it too, though, because it's his channel and he knows how to walk that like I'm not going to get demonetized line. Calling COVID some sort of Microsoft Office software might be a little bit too far for the YouTube executives algorithm.
The anti-vax, and of course I use that. I know that I think they both have gotten vaccinated. But I got the news for you. That does not mean that you're not playing to anti-vaxxers for your TV show. In fact, it doesn't make it better that you have availed yourself of the vaccination, yet you attack the foundations of what vaccinations are in terms of public health policy.
Well,
Particularly when you're talking about a communicable disease.
It's why I left the left, right? It's like I was a part of the vaccinated population, but now I see why it's actually really dangerous. That's what they're trying to do.
Yes, and they're also conflating what the term anti-vax means. Anti-vax does not mean that you are against taking a specific vaccination. Anti-vax means that you're undercutting the entire concept of what vaccination means when you have a communicable disease in terms of public health policy. The idea that that there is a secret vaccination court is not so secret. It's been around for I think at least a couple of decades. You can Google it and you can find the records of what's been paid out. And the reason why they do this outside of the normal judicial civil procedures is because for vaccinations to work when it comes to communicable diseases, you need as much uptake as possible. And the way that public health policy is done is that there's a certain amount of risk with every medical procedure that exists, including vaccinations. You're always going to have, if enough people get that procedure or that vaccination or that drug, you're always going to have a number of people who are going to have adverse reactions. That's why there's no medical procedure that is 100% safe.
Yep.
And to undercut the idea of just that vaccinations, broadly speaking, are safe and that our vaccination system is really we know the outcome of that, but I was really surprised by that. I mean, Jimmy Dore, I don't put anything past him. He's so deep into a bottle half the time he doesn't even know what he's saying. But I was really surprised to hear that from Max.
Did you appreciate the stand-up bit at the anti-vax rally? What's your thoughts on that as a failed stand-up yourself?
My stand-up never quite got to that level. I was always trying to work my neck isn't smiling Botox joke.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of iterations of that one. I could never really pull it off. So it's a tough joke to pull off.
I wire act.
It is, there's nothing better than doing an industrial like that, where it's all you got to do is, as long as you bring out your best, you're even if your anti-vax material is like grade D, you're going to get some good responses there. It's just that they didn't like hearing that he injected himself with Botox. That was the problem, because it involves a needle.
Yeah.
So
needles are scary.
Guys, I've hit my limit. I'm going to go back.
That's longer than we thought, right? You thought it was a 5 minute.
I'm surprised. I couldn't help myself.
And 2 clips.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
There you go. No,
I feel proud of myself about that.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for your warm emails and tweets. And don't forget to push the Boston show.
Oh yeah, the Boston show.
Yeah, the big lie.
All right, I've been forgetting to do that all week, so I'll do that. I'll do that next week when you're also not here. People are going to forget
Majority
about
Live,
you.
folks. Boston show. Check it out. All right.
All right, feel better.
I'll see you guys later. Have a great
Bye,
week.
Sam.
Another great
You
week.
too.
Thanks again.
Feel better.
Good job,
Yep,
Emma.
of course. Thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye. Back to me.
Yeah, the one that matters is me. I'm the only one that matters.
All right. With that said, should we head into the fun half? What a special guest. Sam just wanted to thank you all for the warm tweets. No, but seriously,
Warm tweet stuff.
I'm glad to see he's doing better.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. 646-257-3920. I don't know if we'll be able to. We'll be taking calls, so we'll see. We'll see if we get to a few. See you in the fun half.
3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second. Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry. Women's
Stop talking for a second. Now let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7-8?
Yes.
Hi, me? This me?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello, is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go start watching.
Libertarians.
They're so stupid though.
Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge Mac.
I'm positively quivering.
I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-501. 1/2. 3/8.
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
6, 5, 4, $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
You can call it satire. Sam goes, it's satire.
On top of it all,
Yeah.
my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like
Yeah.
everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
We are back. Come shower with Crowder. Can you please tell Sam that his experience with COVID proves he is actually a boomer despite pretending not to be? I'm sorry, I forgot to tell him. T-Nav, as a longtime fan and member, I feel the responsibility to call out the dip in guest quality on the show. David Griscom was fantastic, but where the hell did you find that second guy? Dumpster diving for the sake of filling time is not good practice. I hope to never see that face or hear that god-awful voice on the show ever again, or I may have to pull my membership. I mean, we don't take threats lightly, so it will be noted. Tojo's bald head. How much ivermectin has Sam taken? A Square. Oh my God, so good to hear Sam. Yes, agreed. Slap cough from Montreal. What are the odds Chris Smalls is invited back onto Tucker? Not likely. Sam's dialed up jiggle physics. Hey Emma, thank you for all your hard work, especially this week, and for you hosting solo. You and the whole MR crew do an amazing job. My question is this: what's the point of a veto if the power that has been vetoed can just override it? Shouldn't an override defer to a special power like the judicial branch, not the group that was originally concerned with what was vetoed? Why can't we just say that the executive branch can veto the override? It seems counterintuitive to the purpose of checks and balances to me. Thanks. Happy Friday.
Is this about something specific or just generically?
I think it's like the overriding of the veto in Kentucky for an abortion law. There's, the Democratic governor there. In Utah, same thing happened. The Republican governor vetoed the anti-trans legislation. In Kentucky, it's the abortion bill.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like principally, just generally speaking, I am more in favor of legislative branch than executive branches, and would want to see them have more power over the executives. But being extremely gerrymandered and those sorts of things, that it's obviously going to lead to awful problems like this, where the governor is better than the insane legislature.
Yes. Margot from Mass. He has risen. Come shower with Crowder. Did you guys play Jimmy's embarrassing comedy set at the anti-mandate rally? No, but I did text it to Sam and said this is to lift your spirits while you're sick, and I think he appreciated that.
I liked his joke about the thing on the flyer where it says, "Hey, leave the AFT if you're a teacher. Leave the union."
Fake unions.
That was
Fake
hilarious.
unions, AFT and UFT.
That was a hilarious joke.
Oh yeah, that is hilarious. What's a fake union? Is it like a fake progressive?
One that takes COVID seriously.
Yeah. It's interesting. How does he square that with the Amazon union's push?
Well, let's not ask about that.
Yeah, that's how that entire unionization effort came out of. Chris Smalls was concerned about the lack of COVID protections, but apparently it's just a flu.
But anyway, yeah, let's talk about these freaks in Canada that want us to not take COVID seriously at all.
Skippy, who should the Eagles draft? Somebody bad. No, I mean they need a. I hope all of their picks turn out badly. I hate the Eagles, but they have 2 first-round picks this year, 2 first-round picks next year. It's very unfortunately they've run their organization quite well, and I think they need a good defensive back. So like that corner out of Washington, is it McBride?
McDuffie.
Yeah. Pretty good, because I think Ahmad Gardner's gonna go off the board. And I think that if that guy Jordan Davis out of Georgia, defensive tackle, falls to them, this is probably going to be Fletcher Cox's last year.
I was just gonna say he's pretty old now, so
yeah, he's Fletcher Cox reincarnated.
Maybe someone to replace Jalen Reagor, which AKA one of the saddest picks of the last few years.
Pathetic pick, yeah, that was ownership getting in the draft room. Prairie Fire Kowalski, howdy MR crew and Emma. So my sincerest apologies for my absolutely terrible behavior yesterday with the call-in. Apologies accepted, but I'm still,
Thin ice, Kowalski.
Exactly. I failed you, the crew, the Republic, and in the chat, I know the artist was particularly devastated. Anywho, nice to see Sam is okay, and the agricultural situation is getting worse. I'll get a better report organized soon. Everyone enjoyed your Good Friday and have a happy Easter zombie day to you heathens, leftist poggers. Yeah, so I forgot that Easter is on Sunday. My birthday's on Monday. Sometimes I have.
You forgot that Easter was on Sundays? Or you mean this Sunday?
This Sunday.
Okay,
I don't
gotcha.
give a shit about Easter.
It's typically on Sundays. So.
Yeah, well, all right, smartass. Yeah. No, I understand that. But so I'm having a thing with a few friends, and I was like, damn it, I organized this, and some people aren't gonna be able to come because it's Easter. But Easter's a terrible holiday. I don't really care for it.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
I like the bunny. I like the searching for a basket when I was a kid. 1 year I got Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and
That's cool.
and then my mom watched it, and then when I was at a sleepover at somebody else's house, and determined it wasn't an appropriate gift, and threw it in the garbage. But she told me that the VCR ate it, and for a long time I believed that. But anyway, that's what I think about when I think of Easter.
What did she not find appropriate? The like very poorly aged transphobia?
Yeah, I think there's that, and I think that was probably the main thing. Although that's at the way end, and I don't know if she got that far.
Or the Carrieisms, the
yeah, like it might have been When Nature Calls too, actually. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that one, that's not as good, but I still enjoyed. I like both those Ace Ventura.
I mean, I
ones.
thought it was the funniest thing in the world when I was a kid.
Yes,
but-
every Carrie movie, like 90s Carrie movie,
The
like
Mask?
like The Mask, Liar Liar. Like I was in the pocket of Jim Carrey when I was a kid.
I thought the funniest thing he ever did was the thing in the rhino, animatronic rhino.
Oh,
in,
yeah.
Nature Calls, but yeah.
Good movie, actually good movie. The Cable Guy is classic with
Yeah.
Ben Stiller also.
Okay, but anyway, long story short, my mom was like, "Do you want to do something for Easter?" I'm like, "My birthday gift for my day is that I don't want to do anything for Easter. I just want to lay in my bed." So that's what I'm going to be doing. Anyway, Andrew and Olympia, I literally spend more time with all of you and Sam than people in real life, so it was wonderful to see that old salt and pepper hair again. That said, glad to have hear Emma will continue to steer the ship next week. Yeah, it was bad timing in that sense. Like, I think we were talking in the break, this might be the longest Sam has taken away from the show in a long time. So it's going to be 2 weeks without Sam, as since he has spring break for his kids next week.
If we've done 2 weeks off before, it hasn't been like this where it's somebody like Emma doing the interviews the whole time, because if he was taking this amount of time off, we would have pre-recorded a bunch of interviews to run.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely definitely the most time Sam's gonna be taking off.
Matey Doctors, hit the like button. Yes, hit the like button, subscribe. And also, yes, the Boston show, May 15th, nearly sold out. Come see us. It's an even bigger arena than what we did at the Bell
It's
House.
a big, glorious arena. I mean, Bell House
Yeah.
is cool as like a music venue, but this is like the place where you'd see Chris Rock, literally.
I know. It's a little nerve-wracking, but
We're gonna be in the venue where Chris Rock broke his silence post slap.
yes,
That's pretty
historic
meaningful.
ground.
Also, I'll be wearing a Celtics hat.
Oh, you will.
Yeah, it's gonna be awkward if they lose to the Nets. So I'm kind of hoping that they beat the Nets, because otherwise it's gonna seem like facetious if I wear the hat. But no, I hope they. I'm ready for the Nets to be out. I don't think they got it this year, and I like the way the Celtics are.
I will be wearing my Julius Randle jersey and Jets hat, so just to hopefully start a few.
Oh, you want to get
altercations.
punched in the
Yeah,
face?
Yeah,
Okay.
Ideally.
All right. Well, if that's what you're into. All right. Let's take a call. Calling from a 360 number. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Nate in Portland.
Nate in Portland. What's on your mind?
Well, Griscom was great, and he was talking about that group Save Austin Now,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to call out a similar group that's been working here in Portland.
Okay.
It's called People for Portland.
People
and
for Portland.
yeah, their main focus, they use a lot of like vaguely left sounding language, but their main focus is the homelessness and garbage, which is code for homelessness.
Jeez.
And they keep saying things like they don't want to outlaw homelessness, but their most recent move was to try to introduce a ballot measure to force a bunch of money that's been allocated to address the homelessness crisis to shelters only, rather than affordable housing or rent assistance, that kind of thing.
That's
So,
yeah. Okay, go on.
Oh, and the other main thing is they use a lot of language about eliminating conflict of interest, which had me curious. So I was looking it up yesterday, and basically they want to keep anyone who has any contacts or association with any groups that actually help homeless people out of any decision-making processes.
Wow. So they're claiming that that's some sort of interest group.
Basically, they're saying that like anyone who has a vested interest in helping homeless people would therefore have a conflict of interest in how to allocate funds.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know where that money is coming
Yeah,
from.
I mean, this is interesting, and you're going to see a lot of this. I think I'm on their website right now, People for Portland, and it is a lot of this. Yeah, it's sort of finely tuned to seem like, oh yeah, we actually want to help homeless people,
Yeah.
and we just don't think it's been done right. But then you actually look at some of the things that, like the poll in their site, and it's like people don't think that the money spent to help homeless people is spent the right way, and so we need to oversight that, and then it's not like
the whole
that sort
polling-
of stuff.
Their whole polling data sheet is it's so insidious and like misleading. All of the questions are very, very leading.
Hmm. All right. Well, I appreciate the heads up, Nate. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for taking the call.
Later.
This is going to be a fight for the next, I mean, foreseeable future. Is this, frankly, big city liberals?
Yes.
That like, and I think like you see in like the anti-Krasner and anti-Boudin stuff in San Francisco, like they're going to be a more, we're going to get a clearer picture of these folks, and it's not just going to be bad Republicans and good Democrats. We're going to see like what bad Democrats look like.
Yeah, and frankly, it's like Democrats associated with restaurant and tourist groups and real estate that have
exactly.
decided to demonize homeless people, because they perceive it hurts their bottom line to have a human being, an undesirable outside of their business.
Well, I think this is one of the two things in like liberal cities where I also think it just goes to show, like, I will say, like, most like big city mayors are like, even if they're like Democrats, are fucking awful. Like Ted Wheeler is terrible in Portland. Jenny Durkan was terrible in Seattle. Like, it doesn't really matter how progressive the city is when like the heads of the cities are also like kind of like heads of the police too. And like all of the protest responses in those cities, like it didn't matter how liberal they were. It's the same thing with homelessness. Like that's one of the most bipartisan issues is like cracking down on BLM protests in these cities and homelessness and shit.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob Fry in Minneapolis is sort of like the perfect example of like, you want to make people feel heard, but ultimately you're not going to do anything against the police department, and you're probably even afraid of them.
Yep. I mean, de Blasio, we saw him attempt to encroach on the police just like a little bit. We might make you wear body cams, and they doxed his daughter. So, all right, let's do a clip here. Bradley is partial to the Shapiro clip. All right.
We got to give the people what they want. The chat were clamoring for it.
Oh, they
yesterday,
were?
So
Okay, great.
Got to give it to them.
All right, let's do it then here. So here is Ben Shapiro speaking at an event, and he's confronted by a student about the fact that he uses outdated terminology when it comes to gender and sexuality, and the student just like goes for the jugular here, and it's glorious.
I'm a mathematician and a physicist here, a double major, and I also just won the most prestigious award in the country to pursue research at any institution I want, the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. So I think I'm pretty, qualified to say that most of what you're saying is based on like old data. But my question to you, and so I want you all to like realize that.
Last month, but sure.
Like, for example, gender identity disorder, that's the DSM-4, bro. We use the DSM-5 now for psychologists to be able to talk
I literally
about...
cited the DSM-5 in the speech, and it's called gender dysphoria, which is
I
a term
literally
that I
said-
use throughout the speech, not gender
You
identity
sound like a
disorder,
bozo,
which is
bro.
as
And
identified
you get
in
no
the
pussy,
DSM-4.
and you can't even make your wife wet, bro. So what's good?
So, let me just say, the nice thing about having several small children is I don't feel the necessity to have my masculinity
We're using
challenged
a
by someone
Western
like you.
colonial idea of gender, then why should it apply? If we're using, because the gender binary is a Western colonialist framework of gender.
You're
you
right.
know?
Men and women don't exist in any other culture.
No.
In any.
No.
You're
Think
right.
about Native American.
Nailed it.
Third gender people. I'm not saying that. Third gender people exist in Native American societies, Western African societies, like Southern Native American societies, like Mexico. So in other places that are not white dominated,
And they
like
are
the United States or
incorrect.
Europe. And so you're
I'm
saying
saying
white,
they're biologically
so non-white
incorrect.
people. I'm a mathematician and a physicist. You cannot
So
tell
what
me.
so I have a question.
And also, you're not a biologist.
So I have a question.
I'm 20.
As a mathematician and a physicist, what in the hell do you know about human biology?
And you got
that
your
allows
law
you to
degree from
deny it?
Harvard. What do you know about biology? You got your law degree from
And frankly, And frankly, I would ask another question. If your logic is so flawed as a mathematician and a physicist, I would suggest that whichever institution gave you an award, revoke it immediately.
Whoa. All right, well, that was...
You sound like a bozo, bro.
Like, I mean, that was just beautiful. And I'm sure that Ben Shapiro felt a bit smarted, and that's not the exact rhetorical device that you should use to effectively undercut me in this argument. But it doesn't matter. It was cathartic and awesome.
And for anybody who is stuck on the issue about the sort of Western patriarchy origins of this stuff, I'd recommend a book, Good Wives, Nasty Wenches, and Anxious Patriarchs. Oh God, I'm blanking on the
I'll look it
author's
up.
name. But it goes into
Kathleen Brown.
Kathleen Brown, how this stuff actually is like the institution of this binary, whereas everybody knows that the binary is not perfect, and there's a lot of exceptions to that. It goes into how like the colonial Virginia government had to deal with that. Like now we need to have somebody go determine what gender this intersex person is. Like this stuff was particularly for like colonial taxation purposes and stuff like that. Like it literally was a colonial project, and that we're stuck with it basically because the sort of Puritan folks and the Protestants in general that colonized these folks were very preoccupied with making this a biblical fundamentalist version of it can only be, and it's only possible that there is men or women.
Right. Well, and if it is only possible that there are men or women, and men are the ones who can subjugate 50% of the population and have all of the power. It was a way for patriarchy to be entrenched, specifically from a fundamentalist perspective and a religious perspective. And when the student there cites all of those examples of different cultures, which are true, intersex people, third genders have, as I mentioned, existed for centuries and have been incorporated into cultures that, Ben Shapiro might deem unworthy. Check out his tweets about Palestinian people if you want to see how he perceives non-white or non-Western associated with cultures across the globe. But he is confronted with that fact, and he says, well, they're wrong. So that's the thing.
They're just wrong. That like what I forget what the indigenous, like it's like third spirit or something like that. Like they're just wrong that they do that. They should stop doing that, and they should figure out which one of the other guys make a pick.
Right. But he has no factual claim as to, or anthropological or historical claim as to why it's wrong. He's claiming that biology indicates that, but that's not the case.
I mean, this is the guy who got famous for saying facts don't care about your feelings, and he literally like is a religious is a religious fundamentalist.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
where's that fact at? Like God is not a fact.
No, the facts that were listed by that student do not fit into his warm and cozy feelings about the gender binary in the world. And to bring it back to the claim he makes about his wife, it's because Ben Shapiro is a lot more comfortable in those more traditional roles where perhaps his masculinity is not questioned to the degree that it would be if we're having a larger exploration of what gender means in our society. Calling from a 502 number. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 502.
Hey, this is Will from Indiana.
Will from Indiana. Anna. What's on your mind?
That's one way to pronounce it.
Yeah, I just was tripping over my words.
Yeah, if you all had already read it, then this call is basically going to be very short. But did you all get my IM on Tuesday, I believe, about the IU grad workers strike?
I don't remember. I'm
not
sorry.
sure. Fill us in. Yeah.
Is that a no?
There's just a million IMs. It's hard for me to retain it. I may have read it, and it just might be out of my brain.
Okay. Well, essentially, grad workers at Indiana University are striking because, well, they're paid like shit, and they also, a lot of the departments at IU are like some of the highest. They earn the highest money in the Big Ten, and also they have some of the highest fees for grad students in the Big Ten. And so they are essentially like, hey, we should get more money and we should decide where a lot of the fees go, so we're not, being taken advantage of. So they voted, I think on Monday, it was like 1,002 to 28 in favor of the strike. And so this is currently day 3 of the strike. And for any of those in the majority report audience who are feeling generous, all the social media is at Indiana Grads. They have a link in their bio for any donations. They would highly appreciate that. I am personally not part of the strike because I'm an undergraduate, 2 more semesters before I graduate, but I just wanted to throw that out there. And I do think that all of the people involved should deserve very fair pay, because it's not an easy job, especially during the pandemic.
Go Hoosiers.
Yeah, there's a
Go Hoosiers.
There's a grad there are a few grad student unions that are cropping up. I know one is happening in Fordham. The stipends and pay for researchers and grad students, it's like criminal, especially when you compare it to the endowments of these universities.
Yeah. And just one final thing before I hop off so you all could get to more stuff. Great job hosting this week, Emma.
Thank you.
And to the rest of the crew. And also, I will be very, very busy on Monday, so have a very happy birthday.
Thank you.
And hopefully I will use my Sam Seder inspired DNC powers to have the Rangers go to the finals. Hopefully against the Blues, even though I know the Avalanche are gonna kick their ass if they make it.
No, the Blues are hot right now. I mean, and I root for them because of Pavel Buchnevich, and I just like the team in general. I like St. Louis, and rooting for St. Louis. So yeah.
Likewise for New York.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I think those are 2 likable teams for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate it, Will.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
You too. And from your mouth to God's ears about the Rangers reaching the finals, I can't even begin to think about it or I'll start to cry.
Wait, so the Blues are playing the Avs? Is that who?
No, well, they'll just. I mean, the Avs are the best team in the league right now, so coming out of the West, they'll have to face them if they want to get through.
Yeah, that's really good. Jeez.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Do we want to do a Mo Brooks video cold?
Sure.
It's a little Lauren Windsor action undercover.
Yes. Who is Lauren Windsor? She's doing this like.
She's the one who's done this with she did it with Jody Heiss, the Secretary of State candidate in Georgia, and she also did it with.
She's like the reverse.
James O'Keefe.
James O'Keefe.
she's like lefty Project Veritas. Basically.
Yes. All right, so here she is confronting Mo Brooks.
Or like recording him at an event, and I haven't watched this either, but I am intrigued because Ryan Grimm tweeted out that every bit of this is correct, and that's not something I normally see appended to a Mo Brooks clip. So.
Right. So she's probably pretending to be a conservative. That's kind of her shtick, and she then coaxes Republicans to saying things that are incriminating and ridiculous.
She also did one with Jody Lott, who's a Georgia State one of the top Georgia Republicans in the state house, where she basically was like, anytime a Medicaid or Medicaid expansion bill comes through, we kill it.
Yeah,
like, that's our plan, So yeah, she gets a lot of incriminating stuff on the record.
All right, here we go.
About why our Congress is so unresponsive to the regular needs of American citizens. Why some of these policies that come out are so bizarre, so unfair, so skewered against regular Jane and Joe citizens. The reason is simple. Special interest groups run Washington. And I don't mean that metaphorically, I mean literally. Now, here is how it happens. In the House of Representatives, I'll use that as an example because that's where I work. If you want to be chairman of a major committee, you have to purchase it. And the purchase price for a major committee, say like Ways and Means, minimum bid is $1 million. I'm talking literally here. I'm not talking metaphorically, okay? We have committees broken down by A group, B group, and C group. C are the cheapest, B are the most expensive, are middling, A is the most expensive. it's the most expensive because those are the committees that the special interest groups care the most about. So where does a congressman come up with $1 million to be chairman of one of these A committees? You can't get it from Joe and Jane Citizen because Joe and Jane Citizen back home, they're not going to be contributing that kind of money. They don't have it. They need that money for their own families, okay? So let me finish. And so you have to get it from the special interest groups. And with the special interest groups, there is a quid pro quo. If you don't do what they tell you to do, they won't give you the money that finances your chairmanship. I had one guy who ran for chairman of the NRCC, which is where the Republicans pay their money for these committee assignments and chairmanships, just as the Democrats pay theirs to the DCCC. And this guy who wanted to be chair of the NRCC actually had a brochure. And that brochure had price listings written on it. And his argument for getting elected was, elect me, I will charge you less. Now you understand how the public policy debate is corrupted. When to be in a position of power, you have to do what the special interest groups require, which undermines the public policy debate. The money now is triumph. And I'll give you a second example. So it's not Mo Brooks talking, but there's real evidence to back this up. Congressman Thomas Massey, by the way, endorsed me yesterday afternoon. I should add that Rand Paul has also endorsed me from Kentucky. He had a lobbyist come up to him, and the lobbyist said, look, I will pay your $500,000 to be on Ways and Means if you will sponsor this patent bill. Thomas is brilliant. He has patents, MIT grad. And Thomas said, okay, I'll look at it. And he looked at it and said, no, this hurts the small and good. The people with the power and the money are going to use that power and money to steal the patent rights from the person who actually had the idea, who should be reaping the rewards of that idea. And so Thomas went back to the lobbyist and said, nope, I'm not going to do it. The lobbyist said, okay, I'm not going to pay that $500,000. Thomas Massey got that published on the front page of USA Today, that story. And I saw it and I'm going, finally, somebody else in the House of Representatives who is honorable, who is ethical, and sees the corruption associated with this process. And I went to Thomas and said, thank you for doing that. And Thomas responded, well, I made one big mistake. Looked good to me. Said, well, I talked about it in terms of buying committee assignments, when really it's a rental agreement. You have to pay it every 2 years. Now, the national media knows about this. Both political parties do it, so neither party rises to the occasion and makes this a major public policy issue.
All right. So,
first person you know just made a great point.
I know, it's that meme. Look, it is probably that straightforward. Mo Brooks leaves out conveniently his likely role and firsthand experience in this kind of stuff, but
and the Supreme Court, like that, they all support that continues like creating an environment like this. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure this has happened before Citizens United, but it certainly didn't help.
yeah. What's Mo Brooks' stance on Citizens United?
Right, exactly. Like, that's the funny thing about this is like, okay, this is an interesting description of the problem here, Mo. What are we gonna do about that? And like, or are we just saying like this is how we have to do it? Like, he's got MAGA Mo Brooks there. Like, is Trump against all of this sort of use of influence, or is this kind of how he gets things he wants? I don't know.
But that's how Trump ran in 2016 in particular, was drain the
I'll
swamp.
be corrupt for you.
Yeah. I know how these guys work. I was the one donating to them, and now I'll be the one in charge. Mo Brooks is trying to do the same thing here. Like, guys, I'm going to gain trust by identifying the problem to you and describing it, as opposed to like, here are my solutions.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, but I want you to know why our government is not properly facing the challenges. Yeah, like no real solution. Just that's why. And that's just what the reality we have to live with, I guess.
Right. All right, let's do another clip. All right, Okay, we'll do the what number is this? Or Emily Capano. Okay. So here is Fox News is Emily Capano. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce her last name, but this is on Outnumbered, the show with Harris Faulkner among others. They're discussing the subway shooting suspect Frank James and the fact that he has been apprehended after a Good Samaritan turned him into the cops. And here's their take on why law enforcement didn't catch Frank James's angry YouTube rants earlier.
At this point.
Good analogy.
He took this job as a former cop for 22 years, Eric Adams, right? Started in January of 2022. Things were sliding already on the subway. It was a very dangerous place. He wants to talk the politics of guns. What about the woman, the 57-year-old woman not long ago who got hit in the back of the head with a hammer? 13 times, all on video. Why weren't the 3 cameras that would have been key to catching James even earlier, why were they inoperable? Like, there are lots of things that he can put some pressure on now. MTA responsible for that? Absolutely. But 2 weeks ago, he said he was going to fix it after he told us that we were having perception problems with crime in the subway. There's a lot to get to with the mayor. Let's see if he can step up. I'm not saying that YouTube shouldn't take down or address or whatever. I don't think they take it down. I think they address it, call local authorities, whatever it takes. But let's not let him use that as kind of the reason why this guy wasn't on his radar.
Yeah, Kaylee, that is such a great point, that there's a constellation of factors that exacerbates a tragedy like this or enables a tragedy like this to happen, right? Sort of failures at multiple different levels. But chief among them, or equal among them, is the amplification of someone, because it's hard to stomach as a regular citizen that people who dare to question against the progressive left's herd mentality on social media are automatically canceled. And then something like this, where if it had been amplified, someone could have, if they saw something, could have said something. Now it extinguished that opportunity or that possibility. That hypocrisy is really hard to stomach with these social media platforms. It is.
So the claim here is that his message should have been amplified so that he could have been caught.
So that people could have dealt with it. I mean, this is a very stupid person speaking.
Yeah.
What's amazing about this is just when she starts saying, like, we got a constellation of factors, and like a couple of the 10-cent words here. I just want to look at the nod McEnany gives her.
Kaylee, that is such a great point, that there's a constellation of factors that exacerbates a tragedy like this or enables a tragedy like this to happen, right?
A constellation that exacerbates. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just don't even understand what they're trying. They're basically, she's trying to claim that he was shadow banned, and then you would have been able to deal with it in the free marketplace of ideas.
Is every story is now about social media moderation.
Yeah.
Like, and that has to be. And Harris Faulkner, I think what she was saying there is she doesn't want that to be used as like the main problem, and actually, like, maybe the mayor and the cops should face some scrutiny themselves. And then she says, chief among them. I will just play a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to stomach as a regular citizen that people who dare to question against the progressive left's herd mentality on social media are automatically canceled. And then something like this, where if it had been amplified, someone could have, if they saw something, could have said something. Now it extinguished that opportunity or that possibility. That hypocrisy is really hard to stomach with these social media platforms.
It is. This unhinged maniac posted a video on March 1st where he said, I wanted to kill everything in sight. I was planning to kill everything I saw. That was on March 1st.
Wait, so is that him going against like the woke PC?
They can't really reiterate some of the substance of his messages, like against homeless people or against different minority groups, because it's a little too close to their hateful rhetoric.
Because what Harris Faulkner says she wants, which is like them to not like suppress or to suppress it, but to go to the authorities about it. That's not going to be something that major social media corporations want to do, because that's going to require hiring a lot more people to be a lot more proactive, and also that's going to lead to way more censorship than you thought getting a Twitter ban for something you don't think you should have got and banned for was a problem. Well, how about all of a sudden you're under investigation because Fox News told Twitter that they need to start going to the cops with all this stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I think the solution is probably not to be found in the moderation of social media platforms. It's probably to do in things like mental health and that sort of stuff.
Alex Charles Dukes, someone please send the Mo Brooks video to Destiny the streamer, because he constantly parrots the myth that America is not an oligarchy as opposed to Russia. Oh boy.
That's embarrassing for Destiny.
Yes, America is an oligarchy. It's just not as bad as Russia in terms of democratic functioning, which to a degree is due to a veneer. However, America is very much an oligarchy in practice.
Yeah, the thing, the way to really test a democracy is to see what happens or how allowed challenges to property, the property classes in that democracy. And I think are extremely gerrymandered, and I mean, just the Senate and Supreme Court and that stuff kind of shows you how much democracy that we're going to allow in this country.
And frankly, the usage of the term oligarch is like a way to racially separate, or I mean, not racially, but it's a way to other Russians, I think. Even though in the United States, there's very little difference in terms of how our oligarchs operate in practice.
I've been confused by this entire thing, because oligarchy did not start with like Russia in the 90s. That the word goes back to like the Roman Republic, at least, maybe even Greece. Like I don't.
But in mainstream discourse, they only apply it to Russians.
No, I know that, but I just
for some
feel
reason,
like it should be used widely. Like, and I don't like. I think and that's the problem if mainstream media only uses it for Russia. But I personally don't have a problem with using it against toward Russia if you use it here.
Right. Pepe Sylvia. Constellations are man's projecting images onto naturally existing points and stars, saying they see it as a constellation and admits they're doing the Glenn Beck red string and corkboard thing. Yeah. Congressional baseball fan. As a professional baseball fan, I know my place during a sporting event, and that is sitting in the stands, taking down stats and yelling at the coaching staff. Rookies, take some notes and don't skip batting practice. Play ball. All right. I thought there was like going to be more of a larger like political metaphor
It's just
embedded
kind
in
of
there.
descriptive.
Yeah. Ben Shapiro's wet ass palms. It's a medical condition. It's biologically not my fault. I can't please my wife. Per the original text of the DSM-1, the clitoris is not real. Facts don't care about your female orgasms. All right. KC.
Also, the DSM, just to get a DSM, is not also like bequeathed to us by God. Just generically speaking, and there's a lot of problems with the formation of it, which it shows up in particularly older forms of the DSM.
It shows up when in 5 years the terms are like offensive or outdated, and there are psychologists that get ahead of these kinds of classifications. Ben Shapiro's falling on that because he does not have the requisite expertise in this area, and also because it's useful for his purposes to rely on some sort of like clinical definition that will be outdated in a few years. And is, as was demonstrated to him. Dan from South Carolina. Hey, MR crew. Piggybacking off Kowalski and the first caller, organizing is the most realistic path to save humanity. Organizing is how we reach people where they live and share our emotional stories in ways that can potentially resonate more than retail politics or online activism. By meeting people where they live, more honest interactions happen, and I have found that have real potential to influence adversaries. For example, here in Ultra Red Spartanburg, South Carolina, we have started a program to give 100 tiny homes to homeless single mothers. It is framed as a way to help protect women and children. It has the potential to both reframe who the homeless are and expand programs like this. While it doesn't go far enough, it's a great start. Good to see, Sam. The crew is killing it. Good job all around.
It's a great message.
Great message and great work. The dude. Do you think one of the major reasons Biden's polling numbers are low is because they haven't held Trump accountable for anything? I mean, it's part of it. The Obama administration saw something similar.
Generically, just not having a positive sort of movement to like your administration, like, and letting everyone else determine what you're going to be talking about, whether it's censorship or your border stuff. Like, yeah, like there. I think that's part of it. But I also think
It's the loss of Build Back Better. It's the
Yeah.
if you deliver something, you know.
Personally, like I think accountability is fine, but it's not my priority. My priority is material, delivering material benefit to people.
Dan from Columbus. Emma's taking up Emma's legacy of leading the war on Christmas with her leading the war on Easter. I mean, yes. Yes. I don't like peeps. I don't like the act of searching for eggs in grass.
Okay. What about the Easter basket though?
Could do without it. Damn. Wow.
No sense of joy.
We're in a fight. Make it unclear. Hey, Emma, since the topic of trans women in sports keeps coming up all the time lately, I want to recommend a really excellent video on the subject by a trans woman who primarily makes content that covers things from a historical perspective. I learned so much from her video, and I think you and the MR audience would enjoy it as much as I did. Her name is Mia Mulder, which is also the name of her YouTube channel, and the video is called "Should Trans Women Be Allowed in Women's Sports?" Really can't recommend it highly enough.
Oh, nice. Thanks for the
All
recommendation.
right, we'll check it out. All right, let's take one more call. Final call of the day. Calling from an 859 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Ethan Osborne from Covington, Kentucky, and it's really great to get through. I've been trying to call for months.
Oh, nice.
And,
Ethan, what's on your mind?
So I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives in my district here against Thomas Massey as
Nice.
an independent. And I'm on the ballot officially. And I am a progressive. I probably make my Democratic opponent look like a diet Republican if you can compare our platforms. But the main reason I'm doing it is because I feel like, for one, the Democrats, his chances of defeating Massey are abysmal. They're just running the same old cookie cutter, generic, corporatist Democrat millionaire.
Right.
Both of my opponents are millionaires. I believe I'm more relatable to the people in my district. I had to, I'm a wildland firefighter, and I'm also a former union organizer with the AFL-CIO, and I've had to go door to door to get the signatures to get on the ballot. I had to get 400 signatures. I had to get a lot more than that because they always, throw some of them out, try to disqualify you. And most people here are actually more receptive of an independent than they are Democrat or Republican, and that's the truth. A lot of people don't realize. And even if my chances of winning, aren't very good, at least I can try to force issues. Like, I would like to see coal nationalized, and I would like to see our natural resources nationalized, like water, because I believe our natural resources belong to all of us. And I think we should have a maximum wage, and that billionaires shouldn't exist. And we should refrain from taxing working class people, and we should use the socialized resources and the maximum wage caps to pay for social programs. And I support Medicare for all and UBI. And I think it's atrocious what's happened in this state. We're the fourth poorest state. We have the highest cancer rate of any state. The state's been plundered by oligarchs like Mitch McConnell my whole life. I don't know why it's the money, but I mean, even conservatives hate him, but he still continues to win. And then of course we have Rand Paul, another clown, and then my opponent Thomas Massey, who he's such a hypocrite. This guy lives on an isolated, secluded ranch, and he's all off the grid. He's got solar, and he takes all kinds of corporate PAC money from Exxon and Chevron and Duke Energy and Halliburton and Lockheed Martin. And his isolationism is purely based on racism. It's not based on a peace that us on the left, that our non-interventionism would be based on. That's
Am
the
I
distinction between.
am I remembering correctly that he was one of the 3 Republicans to vote against the anti-lynching bill as well?
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
Yeah, he's the Klan's man in office here, and yeah, I look at this as
I've heard enough. What's your
Go ahead.
website? Where can we find out more about you particularly?
my website is oz2022.us. And that has my platform and bio on there. And it's still kind of under construction. It's really tough just doing this because, for one, I can't even get any funding. They won't let me set up like an Antidote or Active Blue or any kind of app to receive contributions like that. I keep getting rejected because I'm an independent, and it's just really hard to do this. But I have a little team, and I'm just paying for it out of pocket for now. I'm a disabled Marine Corps veteran, and but I also, I'm a wildland firefighter, so I'm on the front lines of the climate war. I used to live in California too, and I had to evacuate my family back here to Kentucky because of all the wildfires in 2018. So I'm doing this because of my own life experiences. I'm a felon, unfortunately. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I think felons should be able to vote, and that prisoners should be able to unionize, and that we need to stop using prison slave labor to fight fires, and that the prisoners who are fighting the fires should be paid the same wages of every other firefighter that's out there. And that's just, the gist of it. And I really appreciate you taking my call. And yeah. And actually, also, Emma, I met you before at the Iowa caucus. I was, that was before I was sober, and I kind of made a fool of myself out there, but I was there,
I don't
volunteering for the campaign.
Well, I doubt you
Well,
made a fool out of yourself.
I smoked a joint during his little speech when he came in after he won, and they kicked me out for that. So
sounds right on.
I was arguing. I was at the Marriott hotel arguing with Liz Smith because they're a bunch of yucky clowns that were making fun of my boots, and they were like saying their mimosas were too strong. I just happened to be in the bar, but I don't drink anymore. But I met you then. I remember meeting you at the Bernie campaign at the Iowa caucus.
Oh, nice. I make a good impression.
I volunteered for. I'm sure I made a terrible impression because I probably
I doubt it.
Seemed like an unhinged lunatic, but
no.
I volunteered for both of Bernie Sanders' presidential campaigns, and I volunteered for Charles Booker's campaign here in Kentucky. Yeah, I've been an activist since I was like 16, and I'm 39 now. When I started out in the Green Party and helping Ralph Nader in 2000. That's kind of where I started. But I don't want to eat up all your time here, but I appreciate you taking my call, and I hope you look at my website.
Yeah, we just put it up on the screen. Ethan Osborne.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. You have a great weekend.
Yep, good to talk to you again. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. With that said, that will be the final call of the day. We're going to do one more clip, read some IMs, head out of here for the weekend. Perhaps we should do that Missouri thing. So here is State Representative in Missouri, Ian Mackey, addressing one of the anti-trans legislative sponsors for this bill that's been debated. I believe that Ian Mackey is gay. He's speaking to this Republican representative about his experience of being essentially marginalized for his sexuality as a way to stand up for trans kids in the state. Let's watch.
And your brother wanted to tell you that he was gay, didn't he?
He was expressing that to the family, and he thought that that we would hold that against him and not let my children be around him.
Why do you think he thought that?
I don't know. It never would have happened. I'll tell you that. My kids at that point in their life adored my brother.
Can I tell you, if I were your brother, I would have been afraid to tell you too.
Well,
I would have been afraid to tell you too because of stuff like this. Because this is what you're focused on. This is the legislation you want to put forward. This is what consumes your time. I would have been afraid to tell you too. I was afraid of people like you growing up, and I grew up in Hickory County, Missouri. I grew up in a school district that would vote tomorrow to put this in place. And for 18 years, I walked around with nice people like you who took me to ball games, who told me how smart I was, and who went to the ballot and voted for crap like this. And I couldn't wait to get out. I couldn't wait to move to a part of our state that would reject this stuff in a minute. I couldn't wait. And thank God I made it. Thank God I made it out. And I think every day of the kids who are still there, who haven't made it out, who haven't escaped from this kind of bigotry. Gentlemen, I'm not afraid of you anymore because you're going to lose. You may win this today, but you're going to lose.
I wonder if that coward, I'm sure he's still continuing to vote for this legislation. Like, how do you come back from that after being told that to your face? I mean, seriously, just from a human perspective, how do you then go and do what you want to do regardless? Damn. Light him up, right? Like, that's...
I mean, it's a perfect series of questions and the perfect use of that guy's bio. Like, yeah, you said you had somebody who's afraid to come out to you.
Did you ever examine that?
Yeah, you still have no clue why. And that I mean, his use of language there with the guys who took me to ball games and told me how smart I was. And at the same time, they hate you. They hate something fundamentally about you, and there's a deep bigotry that you have to be afraid of. It's just terrifying. Good for him. Who's that guy?
He's a state representative.
Ian Mooney.
Ian Mooney. Yeah, and you make a good point there, Matt, too, because like bigots like that don't get to feel like good people just because they're cordial to gay kids or to trans kids.
That stuff matters not at all.
Yeah.
Like, this idea that you can be nice to a black person or something like that, but that like changes your like the actual official actions you're taking about public policy. And yeah, it's not enough to be polite. It should be a lot more than that.
Aaron is not cool. Tell Oz he needs a giant donate button on his website. Can't find it. I think he addressed that he's having trouble with that, but maybe soon. Steely Danarchy. Easter baskets are mid. Yeah. Chris Burdick. You'd be all over Easter if those kids were digging up through the grass looking for brightly painted cashews. I don't want my cashews painted.
And buried also.
Yeah.
In the dirt.
Ruining them for me. Poor baby Graydon. Extremely biased, but I love Easter. One time of the year, my whole family gets together at Griffith Park here in LA. Beautiful time had by all. Dr. Jackson Hinkleson, PhD. I'm mostly on board with the fuck Easter train, but there are some decent candies. I don't have a sweet tooth in that way, so that's maybe why I'm less appreciative of it.
In what way?
I'm not a huge candy person, but I mean,
couldn't be me.
But I eat cookies a lot, or I like savory things. Like I could go through 2 whole tubes of Pringles quickly, but
I do all of it.
I was gonna say, unfortunately, I actually do all.
Funyuns, Oreos,
combo of all of them.
Oreo squished between 2 Funyuns.
Like, are you guys dessert people at a restaurant?
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm actually not. I've gotten this. Actually, is something that's I have lost a bit of my sweet tooth as I've gotten older, and like post-meal sweets, I just don't have an appetite for. But
Yeah.
in certain contexts, like especially sodas or like Reese's peanut butter cups, I just
I'm
love it.
always looking at a dessert menu, even if I'm not gonna get anything, just to be like, what's going on?
What are the
here? What are we working with here?
I at least need to know what I'm gonna not be having.
When I'm turning down. I like my new thing is I'll just get an extra glass of wine in lieu of dessert. That's really my weakness if I'm being really fully
Again,
honest with myself.
This is another both scenario for me as well.
Yeah.
Mine is like old fashioned where I'm starting to do the post meal coffees or espressos, which I really like now.
Oh yeah, that is right. You were saying the other day though that you used to have like a triple espresso with just sugar in it when you would work at a coffee shop.
Yeah, I was a barista at Caribou Coffee, and I used to do a large white chocolate Americano, which is three
Three
espresso shots
shots.
over ice, and then bunch of squirts of white chocolate, and mix that up. It's delicious.
I remember when I was particularly tired coming into the show, I went to the coffee shop down the street and I got an ice espresso, like an Americano, right? Normally I drink cold brew, that's it. My stomach hurt so badly. And I don't know how one can do 3 espresso shots, but like maybe you just have the intestinal fortitude.
Yeah, built up tolerance over a long time of drinking way too much caffeine every day.
Got it. Chris Burdick, I thought today was the day that Griscom and Sam were going to announce their new joint podcast, Beard Save America. Oh, I guess we do have this one Pod Save America thing. Let's just briefly touch on this and then we'll read some IMs and we'll get out of here. Jen Psaki was at the live Pod Save America podcast and there's no video of it because it was a live show, but she actually said something that I think is newsworthy. If the Biden administration sticks to this,
and they should be forced and compelled to.
Right. Press Secretary Jen Psaki says canceling student debt is still on the table. It's like they're still working through the memos on this.
It's so funny that this is announced at a Pod Save live.
Yeah, I know. And the president will either cancel debt or do another extension before the end of August. Raises like what is that?
Ron Klain, yeah, chief of staff.
That's okay, chief of staff. Ron Klain. That no one has had to pay a cent in direct Fed loans since Biden took office, which is true.
Which is good.
Right? It's a good thing. But, cancel it. If they do cancel it, right? And they want to extend the pause and then cancel it in a year, I'm fine with that, but cancel it. I don't want them filibustering until they're like continuing to decide on the legality of canceling student debt, and they need a new task force and a new memo. We're still awaiting that memo, right?
Yeah, the pinked out one. I think they're to grade the outcomes by desirability. Obviously, canceling all of it tomorrow would be my number one option. This thing where it looks like they're going to extend it again. Like in my mind, like don't do that and then start in the end of Biden's term, start forcing people to pay. That seems like a disaster just politically speaking.
Yeah.
So if you're going to just kick the can down the road, at least kick the can down the road for us until like a Republican's in office. Just like practically speaking, it seems like the smart thing to do.
Kick the can down the road through 2024 past November.
Yeah.
Honestly.
But I like that she says canceling debt is still on the table too.
Yeah. I mean, this is the bare minimum that we
and it should be more than 10,000.
This is something Biden ran on too, though, so it's really just not much to ask.
Like that thing that you said, and it's annoying the way that they were running on the 10,000. It's like I think we could maybe do that. We got to crunch the numbers and figure out a new form of algebra. It's like no, you could just get out a pen.
It's the discussion that we had on Monday with Beth Pop. What's her last name?
Beth Pop Berman.
Berman, yeah. About the economic mode of thinking about efficiency that's infected the Democratic Party. There needs to be some sort of like task force on everything as opposed to a more justice-focused domestic policy. But good news for now. All right, 10 more IMs and then we're going to get out of here. Kid tested Politburo approved. The white chocolate Americano sounds amazing. I have narcolepsy and used to drink 5 cups of coffee plus of office coffee to stay awake. Do not recommend.
Yeah, no, I still remember like the feeling of jitters I would have after I was in my car drinking one of those when I found out Conan O'Brien was on Twitter. I don't know why that memory.
Wow.
That just takes
Yeah.
feeling very jittery and being like, oh, this is very fun. Remember you used to get excited about that? Like, oh, somebody new was on Twitter.
I didn't join Twitter until really in earnest. I think I had like a joke Twitter with my friends where we tweet inside jokes in high school, but I think I joined actually in 2016.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
I had it like 2010, and I literally got it for one purpose, which was to get sent to my phone the tweets, because that was what they did back then. You
Yeah.
get sent to your phone the tweets from the British alternative rock band Muse. I wanted their.
Oh man, you're a Muse
I was a big
fan
Muse
too.
fan, so
Yeah.
Some clip of Knights of Sidonia.
Yeah, I want to see what Matt Bellamy is, what guitar he's playing in the studio.
My boyfriend said seeing them live was like a transcendent experience.
Honestly, look, Muse, it can be a little bit cringe, but that's exactly right about the
I
live.
think when I was like 12, I saw them open up for U2 at Giant Stadium.
Yeah, they were opening for U2. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty rockin' show.
I mean, that it does sound cool. I'm not into Muse, but I've seen clips of the live shows, and it does they seem pretty awesome.
If you look at the Muse in the mid 2000s, the live shows at like Reading and Coachella, that was me in high school. I used to just watch live performances of bands like that, and I outgrew it a little bit. And I'm glad I did. But
Knights of Sidonia, great Guitar Hero track.
Great guitar
Oh,
track in general.
That was on the expert level, was it? Or that's one of the final
hard
ones.
one,
That's
yeah,
a hard one, yeah.
Which is funny because it's actually not that hard of a song in real life.
Right, but it just goes fast,
It
right?
goes fast, yeah.
Similarly to the
Dragon Force?
No.
Dragon Force is very challenging.
God, we are really like off book right now. But the System of a Down song that
Chop Suey.
Chop Suey, that was hard on Guitar Hero or Rock Band or whichever one that was. And again, really off book, but I was so amused by In Love Is Blind, that one woman whose like commitment to playing Rock Band is so intense.
Oh, yeah.
That she wouldn't even put the equipment away, and it was like a prerequisite for her.
I can't believe that couple stayed together.
I can't believe
She's the one who was with the doorknob.
Yes, he's a big Jimmy
Nick
Dore
and
fan.
Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's a Jimmy Dore fan?
Yeah.
That explains so much about that
I know,
show. How did we
right?
find that out?
No, Miki told me.
He was wearing
told us on air.
So he was wearing a free Assange wristband. So that's like what for initially like, which is not bad. I'm just saying
Not
like
bad,
put me
right,
onto
yeah.
him being like a lefty.
Yeah.
But then Nomi said that somebody sent her an IG post of his where he was literally at a Jimmy Live taping.
Oh my
I know, I lost my mind. You might have been on vacation or something. Yeah, Matt, that was when you were away. I like almost peed my pants laughing.
Well, up until now, I'd felt sorry for that guy for reasons that might be clear if you watch that show. But now everything is entirely explained.
Whew. Dragon Force is probably the worst live band in the world, says Tojo's bald head.
Yeah, Dragon Force is very much a studio band.
Left is Death. The last 10 minutes have been epic. I would totally listen to you three do a podcast just shooting the shit. Happy zombie God weekend. Robo Gorka. Muse's world-class rock. Not a fan, but they are top-notch performers and creators.
I really like Muse.
Yeah.
They're nerds and they get into some weird conspiracy stuff, but frankly, so do I sometimes. So I think that's probably why it appealed to me.
Sam from Ottawa. Emma, what's the sponsor? What was the sponsor earlier this week about writing prompts for your parents to answer? Thinking of Easter presents. Storyworth. Check it out. What's the promo code? I don't have the ad copy in front of me, but there's a Majority Report promo code. I'll read it in a second. Bradley's looking it up. Eat the Rich. Barista caffeine addiction is real. I used to do 2 undertows before 6 a.m. Then you gotta end every day with an iced white chocolate Americano. Relatedly, a couple Seattle Starbucks are striking this weekend around Pike Place. Swing by if you're in the area. Yes. Buy him a pizza. Show solidarity. Storyworth.com/majority. Go there.
$10 off your first purchase.
$10.
So I'd be curious to get IMs next week or whenever from people who are going to Starbucks that are unionizing, if you have one in your area, and supporting them and see what your experience is like.
Yeah. All right, 5 more. Omega's Henron Dragon. Sup, guys? The man's speech broke my heart because I knew people who were in the LGBTQIA community since childhood. Also, why are cops getting electric cars and possibly installing metal detectors in stations? Happy early birthday, Emma and Team Cashews, baby. Yeah. I think that like we'll do something a little special on Monday, and by that I mean we'll have beers in the fun half. I'll bring them in. Daredevil, breaking news, Space Force has found evidence that Trump won the 2020 election on the moon. I would like to start a movement to fund settling Trumpers to storm the moon. No need for oxygen. That is a liberal groomer conspiracy conducted by Dr. Fauci. Drain the swamp at the Sea of Tranquility.
Yeah, I love the idea that Space Force has jurisdiction over elections, because it's like, where do elections happen? On Earth, right? Where's Earth?
T-Dizzle for shizzle. I should have put that being a part of a smart ass with my IM yesterday asking if same-sex parents wouldn't be allowed in the building. As a public school custodian in Ohio who's also bisexual, this proposed bill is just one more assault on both a marginalized group and just an excuse to lay people off. Yeah.
Right.
And the final IM of the day... Huge ass. MR crew. Opinion on peeps. Anything short of why do they exist? Explain yourselves. Yeah, I'm anti-peeps. Really?
I'll eat a peep.
Oh, there we go, Bradley.
I'll eat one, but understanding that like these are disgusting, I don't know why I'm doing it.
Yeah, I'm not huge on marshmallows outside of the realm of s'mores, right?
I like the marshmallow part. It's just like the amount of sugar is just, that's too much.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like, yeah, it's just an infinite amount. I mean, it feels on your tongue like you just put a.
You're feeling the grains.
Yeah, exactly.
It also the only thing with peeps is like they have like packing peanut texture almost, like they're a little bit like styrofoamy.
Mm-hmm.
Still would eat them though.
With that said, all right, thank you guys. Great week this week. Despite the fact that Sam got sick.
Another one next week.
And another one next week.
Great job, Emma.
Oh, thanks. Great job to you guys too. Even though you're not doing that much different, except Matt talks more. So appreciate that. But thank you guys for sticking with us. Love the show this week. We'll have another great week next week. See you then.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bulb. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light's shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light's shining bright. The months shifted into years while I shifted